Folks, good evening to you all wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Kalu Aja. Welcome to another Money Spaces with me. Here we're talking money, finance, the economy. But on a personal note, I want to make it personal to you. How does the economic topics of the week affect your wallet? That's what we're going to do today, right? So we've got about maybe an hour or two or three to talk about various topics. Today I have a full lineup, right? So let's just get started. Let's get into it, right? Let me do a brief monologue, and then of course I'll let you guys hop in and give me your take. We've got the JP Morgan report, we've got the BRICS report, and how that BRICS report essentially lines up or aids in Naira and Nigeria. Then of course we've got the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics unemployment report, if you want to call it that, right? Let's just do these three big ones and let's just get started. Last week, JP Morgan published a report on the Nigerian, should we say, the FX reserves and of course the economy in Nigeria. The main thing, the main thrust of the JP Morgan report was that they looked at the foreign reserves of Nigeria and they said in the past, last week when CBN released the report, we had done a calculation and said, hey, CBN said they have 35 billion. If you take away the swaps and you take away the loans they had made to JP Morgan, the reserves come out about 17 billion. What JP Morgan did in that report was bring down that number from the 17 all the way down to about 3 billion, less than 4 billion US dollars. So let me just be clear. JP Morgan is saying that if you take away all the contingent liabilities and all the claims on Nigeria's foreign reserves using estimates, they were very clear, these are estimates and projections, that Nigeria, the largest economy in Africa, has less than 4 billion in total FX reserves. So all the swaps, if you take away all that, that's what they're saying. And that's a killer, right? Because what that means is simply that Nigeria cannot defend the value of its naira vis-a-vis the dollar. So when you see 800, 900, the market knew already that the FX reserves were not sufficient to defend a 486 exchange rate. At 19 or 17 billion, we were maybe, yes, they can't defend it, but they have 20 billion. That's something they can work with. But at 3-4 billion, they can't even defend anything. There's nothing to defend. Hence, they must devalue. It's not optional. So the debate we're having online to say, hey, should we defend the naira? Should we peg the naira? Should we not peg the naira? That's gone. That is completely gone out the window. The long and short is that we cannot defend the naira with 4 billion. It's not possible. You can come and defend and say it's an assumption they are making. They're not taking into account this. They're not taking into account that. The reality is this. The 7 billion we borrowed from JP Morgan, from the American banks, right? That is a fact. The swaps are also a fact. Swap meaning that we did have how do I explain now? We have exchanged currency and we're liable to pay back that currency. The main one that is going to be should we say, a drain on the reserves is the FX forwards. So I tried to explain all this last week on a tweet, and I'm going to repost that tweet in case you don't know what I'm saying, right? When you have a forward market, essentially, if you are bringing dollars to Nigeria to exchange to Naira to invest, your biggest problem is that if you want to take your money out of Nigeria, the exchange rate might move against your favor. So what do? You go to the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the Central Bank of Nigeria will sell you dollars 2 years, 3 years, 4 or 5 years into the future. So if you go to at FMDQ, you see the dollar rates for the forward markets. They are quoted. So you can actually go to the market and you can buy dollar forward contracts saying that you will pay a premium today to the Central Bank of Nigeria for the right to buy dollars at whatever price you quote today in 5 years. So if you look at the dollar forward in, say, 2022, if you invested for 2 years in Nigeria, you could buy that dollar for about, say, 600 naira, about 577, 600 naira. Right now, that same dollar is 1,000 naira to that dollar to buy in 2 years. Who is going to pay the difference between that 1,000 and whatever price is on the black market? Is the CBN. So what JP Morgan is saying is that CBN will have to dip into its reserves, buy those dollars, or give you that dollar at the price you paid 2 years ago, which was about 55 and 7 or 400. 2 years ago, when dollar was still at whatever price it was, the CBN will have to pay you today, not the 1,000. They are paying you at 4 or 5. So that loss is what they are backing out of the reserve to say these forward contracts are going to come due. So we're backing it out. So the long and short is this: less than 4 billion in reserves for the largest economy in Africa. The implication is that Nigeria cannot defend a $800 or $900 reserves if that number holds. So what does it mean to you now, the guy listening? What does it mean to your pocket? It means if you have your dollars, keep your dollars very, very close, because there is no defending. There is no CBN Calvary coming down the line. We've heard the NNPC 3 billion that they've done. They've raised 3 billion. That shipment is going to go like that, because the market now knows that there is no more FX reserves coming to the market, right? Unless we do a successful asset sale. And how quickly can we do that, right? So unless we do an asset sale, or we get the diaspora folks to come into the country with dollars, then we don't really have enough dollars to defend. Let me make this very, very clear. This does not mean the economy is in trouble or that there's something wrong with the Nigerian economy. If you look at the stock market, it's still booming. Look at remittances, they are still going on. Look at P2P, it's still happening. Exports, not all exports, still going up. What this means is that the central bank's dollar inflow is seriously hampered. And they cannot, as an interventionist, play in that open I&E window to affect the dollar. It has to be from the private individuals. If they like the economy or what they are seeing, then they can put dollars into the Nigerian economy. So it's a bet now to say, okay, what's going to happen? Do we think remittances will come to Nigeria? I.e., will there be new policies that will make remittances come? Or do we think it's going to just go downhill from here on? That's basically the bet we're making. It doesn't mean that the economy is in trouble, quote unquote, if we could put it that way. It simply means that dollar exchange rate you are seeing is not going to get better anytime soon. That's essentially what it means. So that's my take on that JP Morgan report. There's no need to argue, guys. There's no need for CBN to start arguing. Instead of arguing, post your reserves online. Let's see it. CBN used to push reserves online. Instead of arguing with JP Morgan, post your reserves online. What you have right now, just post it online. End of story. If you're not going to do that, let's not argue, right? Let's go to the second one, the second issue we have, which is the BRICS. So BRICS is acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and of course South Africa. So the news is that Nigeria was at the conference but was not admitted to the conference. The debate, of course, the VP said we didn't apply to join. But that's irrelevant. The point is Nigeria is not a part of BRICS. Should Nigeria be a part of BRICS? Of course we should be a part of BRICS. BRICS has now included South Africa, Egypt, and Ethiopia into BRICS. So what's the advantage for Nigeria if we're in BRICS? Very easily, BRICS is really China. It's really China. China has 3 trillion US dollar reserves. 3 trillion with a T. China is the largest exporter in the world and the largest importer in the world. China is the world's factory. America owns the dollar. The dollar is the global reserve currency. What that means is if I want to import something from Benin Republic, my neighbor, Benin Republic, I can't give Benin Republic Naira. I'm just giving an example. I have to take dollars and pay the Bank of Benin Republic to sell me something from Benin Republic. Why? Because dollar is the international currency of settlement. Why had the dollar become currency of settlement? After the Second World War, we passed what was called the Bretton Woods Agreement, where all the nations, developed nations, adopted the dollar because the US had all the gold as the global reserve currency. So if you want to trade from Italy to Malaysia, you use dollars Italy will buy dollars and give Malaysia. Malaysia will buy dollars and give Italy. It's the reserve currency. Long and short, over the years, the dollar has lost value. The dollar has been decoupled from gold. But still today, if people get kidnapped, bad example, they demand for dollar. If you go to Somalia, when they kidnap ships, they ask for dollar. Iran calls US the great Satan, but they sell their crude oil in dollars. It's not because they like the US. It's because the US, the dollar, is the global currency of reserve. So it's a huge advantage to the US. The US can afford to import goods from Nigeria, crude oil, cocoa from Nigeria, and simply print paper, call the dollar, and give Nigeria. And Nigeria will accept the dollars. Everybody in the world wants the dollar. When there's a crisis in the world, what happens? Everybody runs to buy the US dollar bond, 10-year US dollar bond. It's the safest asset in the entire world. How do you buy the dollar bond? With US dollars. So you see the point? France has called this an exorbitant advantage. That the US just gets an advantage because they're the ones issuing dollar. Imagine if Nigeria was issuing currency for West Africa. So we'll just issue currency and print and pay for goods now, because when we print, Kenya will buy, Egypt will buy, everybody will buy the currency. So we'll just print 31 trillion. This 31 trillion Buhari printed, Kenya would have bought it, no problem. It won't show up on our balance sheet. It will show up on their balance sheet. So the US has an advantage. China is trying to use the BRICS to remove that advantage US has by saying, why are you using dollars to buy my goods in China? Use yuan. But the Chinese yuan is not convertible. Google that word, convertible, which means you can't go online and buy yuan and sell dollar. You can go online and buy dollar and sell euros, but you can't do that with the yuan. So what China has done in the past is to do bilateral, country to country yuan deal. So Nigeria has a 2.5 billion deal with China, bilateral. South Africa has a 4.75 billion deal with South Africa, with China, bilateral. What BRICS is now China attempting to do a multinational swap arrangement. So all those countries you see on BRICS, all China has to do is to create a BRICS exchange in China, which would mean as long as you pay Rand, South African Rand to China, they will accept it. Because Rand is now going to be in that exchange, the currency exchange in China. So, look at what's happening right now in South America. Brazil has told Argentina, we will give you Brazilian currency to trade between Brazil and Argentina. But when you want to import, you would import with Chinese yuan, because Brazil is a member of BRICS. So between Brazil and Argentina, they will settle themselves internally. But when they want to trade using the dollar, they would use the yuan to trade internationally. That's what Brazil is telling Argentina. The same is going to happen in Africa. You would then see that if an importer wants to import something from China, if he can't get yuan, he will get rand or the Egyptian pound or even the Ethiopian birr. Because if you use that currency, you can then go to the exchange in China and they will allow you to trade, because all they're going to do is to create open positions with all these countries and be able to then do an exchange like a cross. Just the same way you do stock exchange, you have the CSCS, the central settlement. That's all they're going to do. Once they do that, why do you need dollar? Why do you need dollar? Why, if I'm not going to import from America, I don't need dollar. That's the essence. France does not use dollars to import goods from China. France on its own. They and China have their own agreement, separate from the EU. So it's the exact thing that's going to happen going forward, where you then have countries, as long as you're not going to Europe and America, you're not going to use dollars. That's what China is going to do. So is the dollar going to be affected? Of course. Why do countries keep reserves in dollar? Because you need those dollars to import. That's why JP Morgan's report is talking about the Nigerian foreign reserves in dollars, because you need those dollars to import. So if you have no dollars, you can't import. Importers see you have no dollars, then they increase your cost of borrowing because you need money to import. So now, without the dollar, you need the yuan or the rand or the birr or the pound from Egypt to import. You don't need the dollar. Is the dollar going to go away? No, because we still trade with the US and Europe. but the demand for the dollar will not be as high because the bulk of our trade is with India and China. What does this mean for the naira? There will be no change, guys. The naira will still be weak because you're just changing from dollar to yuan. It's like changing from jollof rice to white rice. No difference. It's still rice, right? But you don't need the dollar to then trade with all those countries that I've mentioned. And it's going to reduce the demand on those dollars. So that's for the BRICS and all that. Let's not worry about whether we applied or didn't apply. What it means for you is that the dollar price might come down, but it will not increase the naira strength. That won't happen. Last point we're going to talk about is going to be this NBC report on unemployment. If you have been following 2020, the last time NBC did a report on unemployment, Nigeria had a 33% unemployment rate, and that figure was still low. There is no Nigerian on this species here that we're having that does not have a family member or a relative that is looking for a job and has not found a job in 12 months. None. Even if you're a minister, even if you're a high government employee, everybody on this space knows a family member that is unemployed, is actively looking for a job and has not found one. Let's forget the underemployment where we are paying bankers 50K. You are paying a banker to go and market. You are giving him 50,000. That's underemployment. Let's leave that alone for now. Let's come to people, guys that don't have any job. They've left school. They've applied for jobs. They have no jobs. There is no one on this space. No one like that. What NBS has done is to say, oh, they changed the methodology and says if you work for 1 hour a week, you are employed. It's like if I wanted to measure maternal mortality in Nigeria and I say I'm only going to count Nigerians that live in America or Canada. So when I only count Nigerians that give birth in Canada or America, I say, wow, Nigeria has no infants dying of childbirth diseases, childbirth illnesses again. We have none because all the Nigerians I'm counting are only the UK, the US, and whatever. It makes no sense. You know, NBS can argue that they used methodology, is what is used globally, but when science is about you do an experiment, you get a result. Does that number look rational to you? Can you say with a clear, straight face that in Nigeria there are only 4% unemployment, that 96 out of every 100 Nigerians are employed? You can't say that anywhere. If you write a proposal to any investor in Nigeria and you tell that investor that only 4% are unemployed, they won't listen to you. And you're going to be quoting NBS. This is the problem. You're going to be quoting NBS, but your investor will tell you you're not serious. And you know you're not serious. And this is the problem. We need to have an NBS that we can quote, and whatever they say is law and fact. We can't have an NBS giving us correct methodology, but ethically wrong figures. The figure is wrong. And there's no going around it. There's no sugarcoating it. You cannot tell me that only 4 out of 100 Nigerians are unemployed. It makes no sense. If we scrapped unemployment, then why do we have humanitarian fund ministry? Why are we borrowing nearly $1 billion from the World Bank for poverty? Then it shouldn't hold. If there's no unemployment, then interest rates should go up. Because if you are employed, it makes interest rates go up. So we should take NPR even higher to fight the resultant spending by the unemployed. It makes no sense. You can't hide behind the methodology is good. You can't hide behind it. It makes no sense because you can't boil water and say the water is cold because meteorology says it's cold. When you put your hand in the water, it burns you. That makes no sense, guys. All right, guys. 15 minutes is all I have available for me to talk. I've exceeded that. I've got guys I want to speak. Let's go to the floor. Let's talk about the JP Morgan report, BRICS, NBS, and any other economic issue you might have. Ken, you've got the floor. How are you doing, sir? Go ahead. Ken, Ken, go ahead. You got the floor.
Always a pleasure to have you speak. Good evening to everyone. Thank you, Carlo, for what you're doing and how you keep educating the Nigerian public. This week has been packed with the NBS report. That one was a shock to me when I saw that, and it's quite sad, because how do you explain that when you talk about unemployment figures in the world, and then you match Nigeria with countries like the US, like France, and I mean, do they have IDP camps in those countries?
Tell me.
Do they have IDP camps? So how do you match? How do you even use that for economic planning? You can't even use that. So what it means is that, I mean, governors and people at the FEC level, even local government chairman can decide to say, yes, we have low employment figure as a result of this. Mm-hmm. So you tell me that if I decide to just go outside because I don't have a job and sell pure water on the street for 1 hour,
you are employed.
Employed automatically. So it means that the government would not consider me as unemployed, and eventually they would not have any economic plan to get me employed.
Correct.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Okay, see, I would accept if the NBS comes and tell me, oh, they are really trying to follow the definition of what it means to be employed in line with international labor organizations and all that, what they define as employed. Okay, I can accept that if you come with that kind of figure, but still you decide that you are still not going to use that figure for economic planning, but rather you will focus on underemployment.
And that makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense. That's a good point to say. To say we're going to quote the ILO figure that by ILO we should be at 4%, but we're going to use this Nigerian metric that we're going to be. That would make perfect sense. You're right. Continue.
Yes. I mean that would make sense. And that very day I watched Arise TV and I saw the head of that department who came on Arise TV to discuss, and he was trying to justify what they've done and why it should be so that's what is being used in Ghana and all that. And I'm like, come on guys, let's be serious for once in this. Why do we keep running from responsibilities? Because that's what I see here. People want to run away from their responsibility, and they don't want to do exactly what they need to do. I mean, it's one of those reasons why the BRICS nations will not even take us serious. Because if you look at it, the countries that they've admitted, they are countries that we can consider to be serious countries. Because how would you take a country like Nigeria into BRICS with what we have seen in terms of poor management in the last 8 years and all that, especially with our economy and our currency.
You see, again, to big point, Nigeria likes this idea of this hubris. We are bigger than this. When we had the African Continental Free Trade Zone, Nigeria refused to join. We refused to join.
Exactly. I tweeted about that some days ago. Yes, exactly.
The head office was supposed to be in Abuja. Because we refused to join, it went to Ghana. Then at the last minute, we joined. The same thing, Nigeria was in the JP Morgan bond index. We were doing Guy. They said, do this, we refused to do it. They kicked us out. Now we're going to Euro bonds to borrow the same dollars. This BRICS thing is set up for Nigeria. You're the largest economy in Africa. You are one of the biggest traders with China. Why is Ethiopia in BRICS? Nigeria is not in BRICS. You understand we didn't apply.
Thank you.
To say you didn't apply itself, it's even worse than apply. Oh, why didn't you apply to join? India is fighting a war with China. I'm not talking about war online. I said a literal war on their border. India and Chinese armed forces are fighting a war. Google it. But India saw the economic benefits and went to BRICS. Look at Brazil. They are on the same America's continent with America. They are in BRICS. Why are you not applying as the largest economy to spread your options? If you say the dollar is too expensive, spread your options. We already have a swap deal with China. So why are you not applying? If you already have a swap deal, and you're defending and saying we didn't apply, I see that makes it even worse that you could apply but didn't apply.
See, it boils down to the issue again that we have, that it's quite unfortunate that we have leaders that can't see beyond the next election cycle. They can't see beyond the tactics and the gimmicks and whatever and the drama they will do to gain favor and to gain their advantage in the next election. Because I mean, looking at the African free trade agreement, continental free trade agreement, that would have been huge for Nigeria because of the size, because of what we can offer. But it seems we keep losing out every time because we take too much time to analyze things. We consider ourselves too big. We need to go and look at it again before we decide on what to do.
Eventually we'll join. Eventually Nigeria will join BRICS. But we've lost the momentum. South Africa has gotten a lot of goodies from the BRICS. Ethiopia and Egypt will get a lot of goodies. Eventually, Nigeria will go and join. And then we've lost the momentum. There's an Asian Development Bank that we're taking capital. That Nigeria should have invested capital in that bank. We didn't invest. Again, so while all these things matter, but let me get Aki in here. Thanks, Ken.
Okay.
Let me get Aki.
Yeah,
Aki, thanks so much. Aki, you
yeah,
got the floor.
thanks.
Go ahead, sir. Aki, you've got the floor.
Yeah, hello. First of all, I want to say that I will publicly say that I was wrong about saying we should do any form of managed floats. The JP Morgan report, I think, already basically just suggested that there was no chance that we could have done any managed float. You can't do managed float on less than 2 months worth of imports. Yeah. It's not possible. So I think clearly someone somewhere, and I'll probably put it more on the CBN, someone somewhere is forging figures and not being straightforward with the public. And I'll put my money on JP Morgan because, first of all, for them to come out with that, they are some of the bankers that the CBN has, and they can always ask around on Wall Street, and also people at the New York Fed, where countries keep reserves. So, of course, they will be able to get a better sense of the true financial position of the CBN.
They are our bankers.
It's just unfortunate that nobody has
JP Morgan are Nigeria's bankers. When we sell crude oil, it goes to JP Morgan. So they know. Yeah. They're not giving you estimates in quote.
Yeah.
They are the
NNPC have an account with the JP
Of
Morgan.
course.
The CBN also does. And I know the New York Fed, all countries tend to have, all central banks tend to have accounts with the New York Fed and all of that. So, of course, this is something that is pretty much spot on from their own end. I will trust them much more than I trust the audited statements, which are true as at maybe early last year. I remember reading an article on Yahoo News in late 2021 when they were talking about how Nigeria had about $17 billion in reserves, net reserves at that time. And there is no way that it's 17 billion in net reserves from then till now. So clearly someone in the US was feeding that to Yahoo News while they were telling us something else in Nigeria itself. So it clearly shows that something about governance is really wrong in that institution. Then on the issue of BRICS, I would not necessarily say it's because of economics per se. I'll say it's largely because of politics. I think what the US has been doing since so starting with Iran and then moving on to Russia. By that I mean seizing of their foreign reserves, I think has basically pushed the Chinese into a difficult decision where they are seeking to create their own hegemony.
True.
Or trying to create a multipolar world. And they are trying to use their own currency as a form of reference currency and maybe even reserve for countries in the hope that if there is a war between them and the US or even there is even severe crisis, say a trade block, so to say a naval blockade of the Taiwan Straits or the South China Sea, that they will be able to find a way to still be able to do a lot of business and trade and all of that. But the problem in what China is doing is that the yuan will never really be a big currency because of certain factors. It still has a closed capital account, meaning you can't easily exchange the RMB, that's the yuan, with even the yen, which is one of the biggest trade partners. You can't really do that. In fact, in the financial markets, there is this thing they call the offshore RMB market and then the onshore RMB market. The offshore RMB market is in Hong Kong. That is freely tradable. So you notice that the offshore RMB market rates versus the dollar can be quite different. In fact, can be slightly different from the onshore RMB markets. The onshore RMB market is much more under the auspices and jurisdiction of the People's Bank of China. That's the central bank there. They can control, basically through buying and selling of dollars, the exchange rates. But on the offshore side, it's much more of a quote-unquote free market rate. So I think there's that issue of closed capital accounts. Secondly, there's the issue of rule of law. One of the reasons why the dollar is still a currency where people still want to park excess savings and excess reserves is because they believe that the US will not just up and seize some of their accounts and all of that. But with what they've done with Russia, that has changed the ball game. People now feel that there is much more of a weaponization of the dollar, and it's not just my dollar, your problem, which is what a previous U.S. Treasury Secretary was repeated to say, I think in the 70s or the 80s, in a G7 meeting. Basically, stop it. Well, we're going to do what we want to do, and the repercussions, you guys will take it. But I think it's beyond that now. It now seems like the U.S. is utilizing and is weaponizing its exorbitant privilege.
Which is true.
And which is true. And that also raises a lot of other concerns, because if more countries start to dump the dollar, I don't think it will happen. But if that happens, it means U.S. interest rates will go up and living standards in the U.S. will probably be lower than they currently are.
True. But
the final reason why I feel the yuan will not be widely adopted is because of the large holders of international reserves still do not trust the yuan. So I mean the Singaporeans who own over 500 billion. We have the Germans. We have, we could say the Brazilians are now in BRICS, but we have the Japanese who have over $1.5 trillion. And mind you, I have to say the Chinese actually have about $6 trillion in reserves, not $3 trillion. The thing is that recently there has been a report that suggested that the Chinese actually hide about another $3 trillion in some other vehicles. Like they have this investment fund, which is, I think, about $2 or $3 trillion. Then they have some other government reserves here and there that hold like hundreds of billions of dollars. So we're having the Japanese, we're having the Singaporeans, we're having the Swiss. The Swiss central bank.
I hear you, Bob. I hear you. So just if I could just step in quickly, I think let's not make the mistake of trying to think that China will do what the West is doing. The reason why you and I can go online and buy dollar and yen online is because those countries put their currencies online. There is no requirement that says a country has to leave its currency online on the currency market. China has said they will not allow the yuan to be convertible. It doesn't mean it is weaker or wrong. That's what they want to do. So you would never, for now, remember China is a communist nation. Remember, they are a communist nation. They will not allow you, a guy in Wall Street, to attack their currency. So it's going to be offline. What they've done is to do the swaps, the bilateral swap. So if you want dollar, they give it to your central bank, not to you. They will give Central Bank of Nigeria. That point is to be well made. Number two, there is no trust in business, right? Iran does not trust America, but they sell crude oil in dollars because they have to. Now, Iran will tell everyone we will accept yuan for oil sales. Look at the key point of this BRICS conference. Saudi Arabia is now in the BRICS. Major development. What does this mean? The reason why the dollar is not a piece of paper today is because if you want to buy crude oil, you pay in dollars. And this was the petrodollar agreement where the U.S. guaranteed the safety of the royal family of Saudi Arabia in return for the royal Saudi Arabia saying they will price their crude oil in dollars. By simply doing that, you and I know every nation on earth has to hold the dollar. Now Saudi is in the BRICS, which means Saudi can say, oh, well, we'll accept yuan and dollars. What does that mean? It takes away the need for many countries to hold dollar. That's where we're going to. So the dollar is not going anywhere, but the need to maintain reserves of dollar is going to reduce because I don't need the dollars today to buy oil. Eight of the top oil nations on earth are now in the BRICS. Russia, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, they're all in BRICS. Venezuela,
one of the top,
Venezuela, which is highest oil reserves on earth, is in their BRICS side. This is the point, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So
the thing is with what they're doing now. These are baby steps towards possibly having the yuan maybe as number 2 currency in the world. And dramatically reducing the influence of the euro and the US dollar in international trade and reserves and all of that.
Good. Which goes to the question, Akin, that if you know this, if you and I on Twitter Spaces know this, does the central bank not know this? I've seen someone on Twitter saying, we should remain non-aligned. And again, India is
non-aligned.
No, I can
the benefits of both anyway.
Exactly.
I don't see non-alignment as meaning you cannot join BRICS. You can join BRICS, but it just means that in your votes in the UN, for instance, you're not so beholden to voting for. It's all this.
Nothing riles me up than people bringing politics into economics. China, again, let me say it again. India and China are fighting a border war, but India is in BRICS. Why? The economics of it. So you want to be non-aligned and have only dollar. Why do you think Sanusi put yuan in our reserves? Sanusi, the former CBN chairman, put yuan in our reserves. You can be in BRICS and still be independent. You are getting from both sides. Look at Turkey. Turkey is in NATO. They have Russian missiles and NATO planes. So you can't simply be in one way and just go along. But Aki, good comments. Let's get Mr.
Sorry. I just want to make a comment about this unemployment figure. Just 2 minutes and I'll
go for it, sir.
So the unemployment figures, I feel this is a classic example of where methodology can give you vastly different results. Unfortunately, I know Dr. Kale was posted today about the stakeholders that were involved with the redefinition of unemployment and all. The problem is that I don't think those guys really should be part of the people that were calling to redefine what unemployment is. A happy medium that we could have come to is this thing that the US does, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, where there is the U1 unemployment, the U2 unemployment, U3, U4, U5. These unemployments have different measures. They're measuring very different things. What we call the so-called U.S. unemployment, I think, is the youth
household. They have the household unemployment.
Now the thing is, we could have done that, and it would be so easy. First of all, to carry out analysis, like economists and all of that, carrying out analysis, where we will say, okay, this is our reference rate, maybe the U3 or U4, but U1 probably looks at maybe underemployment, which is say defined by 15 hours or less, you this represent this, you this represents that. Instead, what we just did is just say, oh, we're just going to change everything. Unemployment is this. It's almost like this money supply thing. But we have M0, M1, M2, M3,
correct.
and blah, 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 blah. You can have different ones for different things.
Correct,
Unemployment actually has different facets.
Correct. And Aki, let me ask you a question. Aki, last question for you. Aki, do you think they did it this way because of politics?
Of course, it's politics. Of course.
All right.
Of course, it's politics.
All right.
You have the highest. You have one of the highest inflation rates. You have a lot of insecurity. You have unemployment, which is very, very, very high. So, of course, to remove the whole thing of the country is not working properly, you change the methodology to suit your political agenda. And unfortunately, you're undermining the institution of the NBS, which people have fought tooth and nail to create some credibility for.
Okay, just a sidebar. Just a sidebar. I'm forward share. I'm going to be next, but just a sidebar. Someone shared with me U.S. Treasury yields hit highest levels since 2007. You know, the U.S. market is worrying me. I posted a tweet about this. The U.S. market is really seriously worrying me. Number one, if you know about yield curves, the U.S. yield curve right now is negative, which means that if you go to the U.S. and you invest money for shorter term, they pay you more than if you invest money for longer term. That's recession flashing like a red light right there. Because once you have a negative yield curve, it usually leads to recession. It's not 100%, but it usually leads to recession. It's flashing. My guy owns a trucking company in the US, and he told me they are literally, he was at home. They're not working. No ships. No business. Things are flat. You know, he's a guy that works before. He literally was every day he's driving. Now he works one day in a week, and he's in a union, so they allocate him one day. Okay, he comes on one day, then he works one day, and he goes home for the next 6 days. Allocation. This is the port in the U.S. Then the last one again is that this. No, hold on. Treasury yields are now at the highest level. What does it mean when your treasury yields are up? It means your price of the bonds are down. Why are the price of the bonds down? Because someone is saying somewhere that I don't think the future is going to look well. This employment figure we see in America every day, it's all Amazon, McDonald's, people getting employed. They are sacking IT folks that earn a lot of money, and they're going to work in Amazon, and to where they pay them 16, 17, 18 an hour, with benefits, of course. But people are getting employed, but the real IT high-end workers are getting sacked. America is worrying me. I'm just putting that out there. I'm just if you can.
So the thing is that the inverted yield curve is a bad sign already, because it means that it costs more to borrow now compared to in the future, which is not supposed to be because of duration risk and inflation risk and all of that. Now the issue is that I think this time around the yield curve will probably portend some problems for the U.S. economy, but probably not necessarily leading to a recession, or even a recession that would last maybe 2 quarters or something like that. Partly because of the recent reports, I think, coming out from the U.S. Fed, I read last week, which is that American savings are actually still fairly high. I know some people are saying it's going to be depleted by Q1 of next year. But then, if you look at liquidity, so bank balance sheets and all, bank accounts and all of that, there's still quite a lot of money in people's accounts.
All right,
so
let's move on.
America is consumption, so if
that's true. But I can remember that in America also,
okay.
Credit card debt is also at a record high now. Credit card debt, which means Americans are now spending daily on credit, not on earnings. Yeah. So red light again flashing. So let me get this. Let me get Demo_Feds. Demo, you've got the floor. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kalu.
Demo, your audio is kind of muted. If you could increase that audio, I would love it, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me? Am I playing a bit now?
Go ahead, sir. Let's try.
All right. Thank you. I hope I'm audible. Thank you for the opportunity. Now, Mr. Kalu, I just want to rub minds with you on the BRICS aspect in this conversation, and hopefully at the end of our conversation. I hope maybe you are able to make me think otherwise or see reasons from where you're coming from, or maybe I am able to make you see reasons from my own perspective. But, on this BRICS issue and Nigeria, I think you are tilted towards, and then from what I've been listening to you, you are tilted towards Nigeria joining BRICS. And it seems you are, and then you and Akin, you have been giving points why we have to be part of BRICS, and on the contrary, as for the Nigerian situation now, I don't think BRICS is the next thing for us now in terms of economic policy. And hear me out, it's my reason. At some point, BRICS is a Russia, China, and they are the major, members, and they are the ones, pushing this whole BRICS agenda. But my own point, Nigeria's own agenda concerning this BRICS, is a good thing that the president is not totally giving a zero attitude towards BRICS. But you need to see that, that we have to compete with Russia in selling gas to Europe.
Nigeria is going to compete with Russia to sell gas to Europe. Nigeria.
I said, listen, what I'm saying is our ambition, our dream, Europe is trying to shut out, Russia. You understand me now? From, trying to sanction them one way or the other. Europe is over-dependent on Russian gas. And if you listen to the president, one of his campaign promises, one of his ambition and his dream is to be able to create a situation where Nigeria can come in as an alternative to the West, to Europe, against Russian gas. And you know where I'm coming from?
You're making campaign promises. Nigeria cannot take gas from Delta State to Kano. Delta State to Kano, we haven't supplied. We are now expected to take a pipeline from the same Delta to Morocco or Algeria. What year will that happen?
I understand where you're coming from. So what you're saying, Mr. Kalu, I understand where you're coming from. What you're saying is yes at the moment, but I'm saying that the national is like a national ambition. That's where they are trying to.
In the long run, we're all dead. That's economics talk. In the long run, Keynes said we're all dead. Russia, listen.
Okay, go ahead.
West Germany, when Russia was still the Soviet Union, the USSR, West Germany, a key member of NATO, went to the USSR and signed a gas deal with them. This was when West Germany was still not. This is when they were at war. They went to the Soviet Union, the USSR, and signed a gas deal with them in the 70s. Because of that gas deal, West Germany became a world exporter because the cost of energy in West Germany crashed. The entire Europe, the entire West Germany's economy, and West Germany is the largest economy in Europe, is built on export, built on cheap cost of production, cheap gas. You can't replace gas that is on the ground, piped through the ground, by bringing in ships, gas on the ships. The cost will go up by 3 times. So my brother, when all this issue is down, Europe is going to run back to Russia. It's going to happen.
Mr. Kalu, so thank you. You are enlightening me. So at least I'm trying to. But look, if I were the Nigerian president, you understand, I have an ambition for my country. You understand? I want to share in the dollars and the euros that is going to Russia. I see that, as a matter of fact, judging by the situation and the polity of the world today, Europe, they are more predisposed to finding an alternative to the over-dependence of, their over-dependence on the Russian gas. So I think I am at liberty to have an ambition as the president of a nation.
Yeah, but it's like a primary school student saying his ambition is to become a doctor when he has not passed JAMB. Ghana, Ivory Coast, all the coastal nations here, we haven't supplied them gas. Russia is supplying the whole of Europe gas. I mean, what I'm trying to say is this. Even if we're only exporting, sir, I get your point. I get where you're coming from. I also want Nigeria to get that foreign reserves of that's going through to Russia to come to Nigeria. But I'm just saying that it's like a bridge too far for Nigeria. We don't have the means, nor do we have the cash. The Chinese have stopped funding the AKK pipeline that is going from the Delta up to the north. They've stopped funding it. They've pulled their funds because it was very expensive. Now Niger is in crisis. So why don't we do the simple short ones? Why don't we have all of Nigeria on gas first of all? Then start to look for Benin. Get all those other countries on gas. The same way Russia did with Europe. Why don't we do that? I get the point you're making. You're not wrong. I'm saying the time frame for us is too long with what you're saying. In economics, in the long run, we're all dead. Are we going to wait for this pipeline before we now start to exchange dollars? So BRICS, and again, BRICS I don't care about, BRICS is about getting an alternative to the dollar. We're all complaining here in Nigeria, dollar this, dollar that. So if you have an alternative to the dollar, why don't you take it? That's the point. Take it. China and India are fighting, but India is in BRICS. So who are we? Are we fighting with China or India? No. So why don't we take the opportunity? Forwash, I hear you. Let's get someone speaking here. I want to get Engineer Nolly. Engineer Nolly, you've got the floor. Forward, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Engineer Nolly, you've got the floor. Please go ahead. OJ Agbedon. OJIE, you've got the floor, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Kalu.
Hey, how you doing, man? What's up?
Yeah, I'm good.
Where are you calling from, sir, if you don't mind?
Okay, yeah, I'm speaking from Lagos, actually.
Gotcha. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, mine is just a question. I want to understand the logic, okay? How is it that Dangote cement that is being produced in Nigeria, okay, he doesn't pay import tax? That cement is sold for 5,300 naira per bag. And this same bag of cement is being sold at 1,500 cefas in Benin.
Well, you've already answered the question. You don't put me in trouble. You've already answered the question. The answer is simple. It's exploitative pricing, right? Isn't it? That's the answer. The pricing is exploitative. And the reason why, not just Dangote, but you can have many companies doing those horrible prices in Nigeria because there's no competition. If there was competition in Nigeria, then he wouldn't sell his prices that high. So someone says, but there's WAPCO, there's Eagle Cement, there's Bua Cement. Yes, there's no competition. If there was competition, the price would come down. They are all colluding and telling you that the price is high or whatever. Do you know the competition allow imports to come in? The deal that Dangote got from President Obasanjo, the deal that they all got was that President Obasanjo banned the import of bagged cement and gave them a time limit to build up local capacity for cement. Then he unbanned it. So if they cannot, like you've rightly said, without paying import duty, using cheap labor, using Nigerian gas, if they cannot compete with imported cement that is cheaper, then Nigeria should simply just say the market is open. If you want to import cement, import cement. That's their competition. Dangote Cement is not competing with Bua Cement. Dangote Cement should be competing with imports. His price should be cheaper than imports because he is in Nigeria, using limestone in Nigeria, using gas in Nigeria, and not paying import duty. That should be his competition, not Bua, not WAMCO. I agree with you. Do you have any comment?
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Because I've just been trying to process the whole thing.
That's really what's going on, sir. And I think you're over the target there. Jamilu Abdullahi, you've got the floor, sir. Please go ahead. Jamilu, where are you calling from?
Yeah, hello, yeah. I'm calling from Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, hey, what's happening, man? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to add a little bit on what you mentioned regarding Dangote cement pricing and pretty much every other FMCGs in Nigeria. So basically, if you look at it, like I have followed the conversation and some people have been making excuses that It's not really Dangote that there are so many middlemen that are hiking prices and everything. But the way I say it, right, there is no way to absolve Dangote from this because you actually see it, even the middlemen, his business model is actually what enables the middlemen to profit over the general masses. Because let me give you as an example. It is not only Dangote that is having manufacturing and distributorship in Nigeria. If you look at pharma in Nigeria, pharma industries have a whole lot of marketing agents. They have so many pharmaceutical representatives just to push their products, right? To market it to distributors, to market it to other people. But when you go to cement in Nigeria, the way it is, those manufacturers don't have any real marketing on the ground. Like, it's actually you, the distributor, that would be lobbying for them to give you products because of lack of competition, as you mentioned. Why would it be that I am a manufacturer, I don't need to market, and it is distributors that will now be trying to compete?
Sorry, I can't hear Jamilu. I don't know if he's speaking.
Oh, hold up.
Can you hear me?
Jamilu, hold on. Olumide, can you hear Jamilu? Olumide,
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so
I can hear him.
So I think it's you. Maybe you have to go out and come back in. Jamilu, I think I can hear you. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, right. So you would see that even most of the distributors that people are saying, like if you are in the business of cement distributorship, it's very difficult to get products from the manufacturers directly. Not only Dangote, Ashaka, Bua, and all the others, right? So there are other people that would have excess liquidity. They will go and deposit their funds with the manufacturer. So basically, it's like giving Dangote kind of free funds, free loans from like supposed distributors. So I would go and deposit my funds with Dangote for like 30 days to get cement, right? And those funds that I've deposited with him, he would use it for his working capital. He would use it for his manufacturing and everything. And then at the end of the day, he would give it to me. And me, I'm not actually a distributor. I have no business with distributorship. Once I have the product, at the gate, I will give it to the real distributors for a markup. And then they take it and go and put their own markup on top of that. Because as a real businessman, you can't actually lock in your funds for 30 days, 60 days without actually doing business. So there are an unnecessary extra layer of middlemen that were created because Dangote and all the other manufacturers will now say, it's cash and carry. They have this cash and carry model for you to get company pricing and whatsoever, which is not meant to be. If there is competition, you shouldn't mandate your distributors to say, okay, they have to lock in fund with you for 30 days.
And Jamil, that's even going into the nuts and bolts of it. But I think the major point is this, right? The same way MTN was in Nigeria and said they could not do per second till Glo came. Only competition would force you to do to reduce your prices. Dangote, not just when I mean Dangote, I mean not most of these guys have hid behind this Nigeria first. We used to have DSTV in Nigeria. Then the Senate or the House passed this bill, and they got this Nigerian company to come in and compete with DSTV. That was a Nigerian thing. We had to have a Nigerian. So they gave that, wasn't another company. They gave that company, they were doing in English football in Nigeria, and the company couldn't raise funding in Nigeria, and they're out of business today. DSTV is still here. My take is this: if Nigeria has given you preferential dollars, preferential taxes to set up a company in Nigeria because we want you to manufacture locally, then your price cannot be higher than imports. Nigeria has the largest rice mill in the world, or in Africa. Rice is expensive in Nigeria. Nigeria has the largest LNG factory in Africa. Cooking gas is still expensive in Nigeria. Nigeria has the largest cement company in the world. Cement is expensive in Nigeria. Nigeria has the largest this, Nigeria has the largest that. Refinery is the largest refinery. Things are still expensive. Why? Because when we look at policies from the intent, not from the outcome. If Dangote cannot sell his fertilizer cheaper than imported fertilizer, then why are you giving him the preferential treatment? Allow the imports to come in. They are going to go on Twitter and say, Kalu wants import. Import is not your problem. The problem is that, are you increasing productivity? Are you creating wealth locally? The largest importer on earth is China. Let that stick in. The largest importer on earth is China. No one is harassing them for importing because they are creating wealth from those imports. So leave this import matter. If we import cement and homes in Nigeria fall by 50%, then how are the imports bad? How is it bad? But when you import, it's not a problem.
Kalu, while I agree with you to a certain extent, where I would have a divergent view on this is like when you say like we have to enable imports, like strategically as a nation, we can't say, okay, we would allow imports to compete with local production and everything. Because by the nature of like economics, of like classical economics theory, right, some nations are naturally more competitive and better at doing something, cost effectively doing something. So if you have a strategic need to build capability on certain things, for instance, Remitter, when the federal government started doing these e-payments and everything, government gave Remitter the monopoly of like processing all these e-government payments and everything for a certain amount of time. We have other people coming into the payments and everything, but still, for government, Remitter still maintains that monopoly. So I'm not saying like I understand where you're saying that competition, importation should compete with manufacturing, but not in everything, because the US still kind of subsidize its agriculture and everything. You can't say because US wants to promote competition and everything that it would now allow other things to come into it.
But that's what the US does. That's what the US does, Jamilu. I'll give you a good example. Avocado.
Okay.
US makes avocados, but they import the bulk of the avocados from Mexico and all across the world. Why? Because it's cheaper. Why do they import it? Because they make food in the US cheaper. So the US is importing avocados to keep food prices in the US cheaper, to keep inflation cheaper. The point I'm making is that what we track for GDP is net imports to exports, not the import, the net. So if I own a country, or if I own a country, right, and I am importing cement, my wealth is going out when I'm importing cement, but I build homes for Nigerians that have no homes. The net effect is going to be positive for Nigerians that they now have homes. You can buy a home for 5 million because there's cheaper imported cement. But with local manufactured cement, no Nigerian owns a home. So why are we deceiving? Where does the effect, the benefits of the local manufactured cement outweigh the local home ownership? That's what economists will tell us. But my point is we cannot hide behind we are doing import substitution to have high local prices. That's where I'm coming from. We have got to have a balance. It cannot be.
For me, what I think is the government, beyond just say, okay, I understand we have import substitution. The government should do better than beyond just saying, okay, I have an import substitution policy. That you should also follow it through with some other policies that would ensure that all these anti-competitive and monopolistic and other practices that would kind of end up like raising the prices and everything are not being done. But not to say, okay, we are not going to allow imports to compete.
Okay, Jamil, I mean, we can agree to disagree, but let me give you the last example. Yeah. In Nigeria has got inflation today of 24%. That inflation affects every Nigerian from Dangote to the drivers on the streets. Inflation in Nigeria is driven by food. Food is 51% of Nigeria's CPI, Consumer Price Index. Food is 68% of the average household spend. The poor in Nigeria spend more on food than the rich by proportion of income. Now, the way to kill that food inflation immediately today is to allow 3 months of imports of food without taxing at the borders. If you do that, the price of yam, meat, everything will crash. When I mean crash, it will crash. When the price comes down, you have inflation would crash. The poor in Nigeria are getting a pay rise. That is imports. That is bad for the economy in terms of the GDP. If you look at say, we're now importing more food, we're killing local farmers, we're going to spend our dollars to import food. but the economy has lower inflation, the poor get out of this stranglehold of inflation. Which one is better? We can't measure it. That's the point I'm making. We have to say, what is the priority? Economics will not give you an answer. It will give you options. You can import food and have lower cost of food in your country, or you can do local substitution, and the poultry farmers, every day you read poultry farmers can't keep their poultry up because maize is expensive. So import the maize, or if we import the maize, the farmers are going to suffer. So you can't eat your cake and have it. We then import the maize, so we have our poultry farmers, we have our fish farmers, we have the local poor folks in Nigeria having a stimulus, or we do import substitution, we have the local maize, but it's expensive. This is my point. We can't drill it down.
Doing that, right? I think that's what Nigeria has been doing. We will just keep kicking the can, right? And we'll say, okay,
we can't, Jamil, we can't hide behind local import. So import is a dirty word in Nigeria. That's the point I'm making, and it shouldn't be so. We shouldn't say because it's import, it's a dirty word. My take is, if the outcome favors more and it's cheaper, do it. Why should we only have local made cement if the price is 3,500 a bag? Why? Why can't the local guys have gotten local dollars, have gotten cheaper gas? Why can't they compete with international guys? That's just my take. So I might be wrong, but that's just my take. Olumide, you got the floor, sir. Jamil, thank you so much. Olumide, what's up, man?
Yeah, good evening, Kalu. Interesting conversation. I just wanted to add some color to. I'll try to be brief because I want to touch most of the topics you highlighted.
Go for it, bro. Go for it.
With BRICS, I think is a deep lesson for Nigeria that the word economic power and political status really matters. If you look at the numbers from each country and the growth, you see why Nigeria was sidelined, despite reports that Nigeria was informally interested. So you look at Saudi Arabia, for example. Saudi Arabia's annual export to China grew to $120 billion annually. To the United States, it was around 30. So it tells you that the Saudis are getting more aligned with the East. And if you look at the narrative around the BRICS, it's an alternative arrangement to the Western Alliance. So definitely, it means that Nigeria really needs to rejig its policy. That neutrality policy and the policies of non-performance economically has really eroded our political influence in the world. And that's really showing on our passport too. Then also, I wanted to speak about the dollar, the naira, and the bonds you really highlighted. What a lot of people have forgotten is that house rent in diaspora has gotten to record high. So, for example, in Europe where I reside, and I saw numbers from United States, New York, house rent is a record high. In New York, for example, house rent is as high as average of 5,800 Manhattan. If you look at London, it's about 2,000 based on Bloomberg data. And despite the fact that we're seeing high-skilled Nigerians traveling at record, the data is also suggesting that many of them are not getting the jobs they are seeing. If you look at reports from UK visa scams, you look at reports from Canada authorities also, because you see this data telling you that it's not as rosy as it. So remittance definitely might not be what we are seeing. And, P2P market has also taken a grip on remittance. So the JP Morgan really scared a lot of people because it means that we don't even have enough bulwark to really defend the naira, and remittance really is not doing so much, despite the exodus of Nigeria's middle class. Consumption is very weak, just like you rightly said, despite the fact that a lot of people think we are an import-driven country. Data says otherwise. We export more. Our import is very weak. Consumption very weak. Our production capacity is at. And if you look at the space, for example, if you look at the fintech space, for example, you've seen that not so many companies are doing very well profitability. So despite the fact that we are seeing VC investment taking 1/3 in the Nigerian ecosystem, it has not really materialized to real jobs and prosperity among the. So the question is, what does the president really need to do right now? Because I don't think the economic reforms are enough. I think we need to look at the political reforms. We need to look at the Land Use Act. PW said that between $300 to $900 billion of debt capital is around real estate and agricultural land. We need to relieve that, at least to get some. We also need to start selling our assets as quick as possible. JP Morgan disclosed that Nigeria can make about 17 to 20 billion from the sale of energy assets. And, practically it tells you that Nigeria cannot manage 45 ministers. I think with the way the optics are looking at, and the way the oil theft is still at record, the country is losing, if you look at the price of crude oil as we speak, it means that the country is losing nothing less than, based on the numbers, nothing less than $32 million daily. And Nigeria takes at least 40% of that based on the joint venture arrangement. So all the numbers point to the fact that we are anemic, and the economic team has to be realistic. Nigerians have to be realistic. We can't compete with Saudi Arabia or Russia. Russia exports 2.14 million barrels of energy product, refined products. This includes diesel and things like that. And it's even at a 8-month low. So if you look at it compared to Nigeria, it tells you that our production, our export capacity, import capacity is, and insecurity also has really blurred the agricultural. But one interesting thing I've seen, Carl, is that the GDP has shown that Nigeria is looking more like a service economy. If you look at the fact that energy just took about less than 6%. You look at agriculture taking less than 30%, the remaining going to the service sector, ICT growing. Government should take the ICT area. We can make a lot of money. I've seen cases like Bangladesh, India making a lot from this. So I think before I drop the mic, I think you've highlighted most of the points, but my own is that if I have the audience with the economic team, I'll tell them you have to cut spending. You have to make political and much more fiscal discipline. You will not get cash. Borrowing. A lot of people are saying we should borrow money. Borrow you money right now? First of all, you need to understand the ecosystem has changed, and when it comes to discipline and proper use of funds, countries are saying that Nigeria is not really on. So it's very difficult for us to get that, despite the fact we've gotten some funds from NNPC. So I just wanted to drop that. Thank you.
Yeah, and just before you go, I think the point you're making is that we just can't do just the monetary, just the diaspora reforms alone. That we have to do more. The whole of Nigeria has got to be towards this income generation. That's what I hear you saying. Land Use Act, 7 trillion. And what Lumde is saying is this. If you look at your CFO in Nigeria, it says you are a tenant in Nigeria. You are leasing that land from the federal government, right? So when you want to go to the bank to borrow money on that leased land, the bank can't give you a loan because you don't own that land. The land is owned by the federal government of Nigeria. So what does the bank do? The bank will say, okay, you have to quote unquote legally sell that land to us. So they do an equitable transfer to themselves before they can give you a loan. This then makes process of getting a loan in Nigeria very expensive. You have a farmer in a farm in Alhafia, right, in Abia State. He can't go to the bank to get a loan for the land he has farmed in for years. Why? Because he doesn't own the land, even if he has a CFO or whatever. It makes transfer of title hard. But in Chile, what they did was that they simply did a transfer of title, i.e. they securitized that land. They gave everybody more or less a CFO, which meant that farmer in the small village now had collateral that he could then take to the bank and say, I own this piece of land, give me credit to do a loan. They unlocked that dead capital. All that land in Nigeria that is just lying around, not doing anything, dead capital. When you unlock it, you give those poor farmers collateral. And once they have collateral, that's equity. They can go into the bank and get a loan. So things like this, what we're not really looking at, the IT, harnessing the IT to get the economy as a whole working. It all just can't be oil. We are still, at Olympia, where that still today, the NSA is saying that still at today, we are still losing 400,000 barrels a day. The NSA just said it a day ago. So if we are losing 400,000 barrels a day still to crude oil theft, how can the Naira go anywhere? What reforms are you doing if you are still in this day and age with all the drones I see, with all the assets we have, they are still stealing oil? It's a big problem, Olumide. Big problem. Yeah. All right, Olumide, let's get Joseph in here. Joseph Abikoyi, are you really in Ikoyi?
Hi, I'm not in Ikoyi.
Yeah. What's up, man? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from London.
Gotcha. What's up, man?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yes, I was just a quick one on each topic. On the BRICS issue, I think well, Nigeria, the government didn't say if they wanted to join. And I think, to be honest, joining BRICS is just a status thing. There's no really benefit of joining BRICS. And we can still benefit without necessarily joining BRICS. We can benefit from the BRICS station. We can trade with India, China, and whatever is going in between they don't want to use the dollar. We can still benefit from it if we play our cards right. And we can also align with the US, like, hey, see, we are not joining BRICS. I don't know. There's a way that we can play it that we can benefit from both sides. So it's not really, I don't think, it's a slap on our face or we should have joined BRICS. We are missing out on some billions. I don't think so on the BRICS issue. And
I think we're making. I think Joseph, we're making ourselves happy with that statement. So why are we joining IMF? Why are we joining World Bank? We can still trade with the other nations. We don't need to join World Bank. We don't need to join IMF. Why are we joining African Continental Free Trade Zone?
No, but BRICS is not World Bank or IMF.
Why? What's the difference? What's the difference?
The multilateral.
And BRICS is not multinational. BRICS is also multinational. What's the difference between IMF and BRICS?
But BRICS does not even borrow. They don't necessarily.
They borrow. They have a bank.
And we still trade with China.
The same question I'm asking. The same question I'm asking. The same question I'm asking. Why are we joining African Continental Free Trade Zone? We're still going to trade with Ghana, with South Africa. Why are we joining that body? Why are we in the IMF? Why are we in the Committee of Nations? Why are we doing all that? That's the same question I'm asking.
But at the same time, we don't have to join every organization that props up.
You see, this is the thing.
BRICS is trying to prop themselves as an alternative to the
why do we have a yuan swap deal? Why do we have a yuan swap deal?
Yes, so we had the yuan swap deal despite BRICS. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So if you join BRICS, I can share you a link of where South Africa got about how many $1 billion from China in terms of support facility. You see, when we're saying this, we're doing sour grapes. We're saying we don't have to join. Nobody asked us to join. Is this defense that we're making that I'm up against? We should say we are going to join later. We're not ready today. That makes sense to me. But to say we don't have to join when we know we need to join. You and I know that if we join, there's an advantage. I just told you what's going to happen with the settlement. Why is Ethiopia, Egypt, South Africa there? We're not there. Don't you see what's going to happen in terms of privilege? Look at how I don't know, man. We are making excuses. That's the point I'm making. We are going to join this same BRICS you are talking about. Mark my words, Nigeria is going to join. So why are we not joining today? Because we didn't prepare. We can just say we have a new government. We are studying. Once we study, we will join. End of story. But this idea of we don't need to join, I don't know, man.
That's fine. Yeah, we're studying.
Right.
I've also heard some speakers there say, look at Ethiopia was allowed in, and it's a slap on our face. I'm sure if Nigeria actually did apply, I mean, what does Ethiopia do?
You and I know Nigeria applied. You and I know.
So if Nigeria does actually apply, I'm sure they would allow us, except if South Africa is trying to play
Ethiopia is
an African giant game, kind of, because they always see us as a direct,
Okay, look at it this way, right? If you want to go into the nuts and gritty of it, Ethiopia is the fastest growing nation in Africa. Ethiopia has got does more business globally. They have these export farms. I mean, large scale export produce in Ethiopia where they're making textiles and the rest. They do a lot of FDIs with China. They have a Boeing plant in Ethiopia. Largest airport in Africa also is in Ethiopia. Those guys are connected to the world. They are connected. Look at Egypt. Look at what they're doing with Saudi and the Gulf states. Growing their economy, boosting their own exports as well. Look at South Africa. Listen, sometimes you don't join things because you want to join. You join things sometimes just to be there in case they share token. And then people honestly true. You don't. You can say.
I don't know what the thoughts of the previous governments are.
No, exactly, Joseph. The ball was dropped there. That's where the ball was dropped. I don't blame these Tinubu guys. The ball was dropped there. There is no Nigeria. It's all. If you look on Wikipedia, on many other sites, even on I read the NBC report, Nigeria showed interest to join. We showed interest. That's why we kept on going. We showed interest to go. And even if we didn't show interest, it's bad that we didn't show interest. We showed interest to join. Then we didn't push it too much, maybe because we didn't want to annoy the US, and we want the US to support us. So that we're now saying that, what's the advantage of joining? There's a big advantage to be there. Now, when we were in JP Morgan Index, was that not a big advantage? Could we not go to Euro bonds to borrow, that we are doing now? But when JP Morgan Index, was not a big advantage to Nigeria? Mark my words.
JP Morgan, because JP Morgan Index, it wasn't like Nigeria applied to join it. It was JP Morgan that's like, okay, this is an index of certain countries that you can get so if you invest in their bonds or their stock or whatever. That's JP Morgan putting up a list themselves.
No, sir. The JP Morgan Index is an exclusive. Only South Africa was in there.
Because they dropped us.
Hold up. You made a comment. Let's just so Paul listen to us. It's an exclusive admission. When you are on that index, it means that whenever anybody in the world buys emerging market bonds, they buy your bonds. Only South Africa was there. We got in there because the good work of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, when they did our macroeconomics so good, we're the longest period of unemployment, of inflation low in Nigeria. We had record FDI growth. We had 9% just casual. 6 to 9% growth.
I'm saying
that's why no other
index.
No other country.
Our own indices
Joseph, no other country
is booming. Okay, let's include them there.
Joseph,
when our economy started,
no other country has joined the JP Morgan Index apart from South Africa. That's how hard it is to get in. No other country. Nigeria was the only country that broke in, and we are out. So what are we arguing now? Those things give you advantage.
It's also teetering. It's not even as Steve Jobs.
Come on. Now we're now saying it's teetering. We're doing saw grapes here. Why do you want to join the Security Council? Why do you want to join all those international associations? Why do we like to join them? Because you get a benefit.
If Nigeria applied to join BRICS, do you think South Africa could be? They might not want us to join even.
But there's Brazil, there's India that are there. Nigeria's largest trade partner is India. So it favors India to have Nigeria in there because then they can trade better with us without a dollar, like they're doing now with Russia. So these excuses are excuses. We don't have to join. But the point I'm making to say that we don't want to join, there's nothing there now, is sour grapes. We're not a member. We should have applied. If we say we're not there because we don't want to join, that shows a lack of foresight on the guys saying we shouldn't be there. We should want to be there.
Joining is not that's not the panacea to our economic woes. It's
not
like necessarily, if we join now, then we are going to, by next year, we'll probably be making, we'll be adding $25 billion to our GDP or whatever. It's not necessarily. Fine, it's a boost of status or whatever. The trade between the BRICS nation, between themselves, is about $165 billion. I was even shocked. Between the BRICS nation, Brazil, Russia, India, China.
Joseph.
Of course, there's some benefits to it, but we still need to look inward to much of the economic work.
Our largest trading partner today is India. The second
that we sell oil to.
Not oil. I didn't say oil.
From Russia, because
whether you sell, Joseph, you interrupt. Whether you sell oil or you sell gala, you are selling to them. You're earning dollars. The largest trade partner today is China, India, then China. The largest trade partners, India and China. You are arguing with me that to join a bloc that includes your two largest partners is wrong. I don't know what to say, bro. I don't know what to say.
But there are other blocks that these people are
like which one? Like which one? Like which one? Like which one? Name them. Like which one?
Or whatever.
Which
there
one?
Are blocks all over spread. There's even this this thing that China created, this multilateral finance organization that China created. Well, I think even South Africa is a member. We're not. I would say, okay, yeah, we should join that because we might get cheaper loans or whatever from that. But anyway, please, what I was trying to say even before let's leave the BRICS issue. I was going to talk about, someone mentioned the World Bank, IMF won't borrow us money. That no one will borrow us money. But I think at this moment, if we go to the World Bank or IMF, they will borrow us billions, because one of the reasons one of the things they would have told us to do before is, okay, remove subsidy, blah, blah, blah. And now that we've done that, I'm sure
Joseph, we've already borrowed from the IMF. We have already borrowed. We've already borrowed $5 billion from them. It's on the books. It's there. $5 billion. Because of this thing, we've already borrowed the $5 billion. That's why JP Morgan is taking away $5 billion from our reserves. It's right there. I tweeted it. $5 billion.
Really? I didn't know that. But is that recent?
Yeah. They didn't tell us. It's JP Morgan that is telling us. CBN didn't tell us.
Is it during this administration?
No, not during this administration. Last administration.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying now.
Why would they borrow you more now? You've already borrowed your SDI. They give you special drawing rights. for Nigeria, then why are they going to borrow you more? Are you Ukraine? Only Ukraine gets that kind of benefit.
That is it. Everything depends on geopolitics. They can't.
Why would they do that?
To US today and
why?
US and they can borrow us more.
Why? Why would they give you more?
Well, that's what it is. Everything depends on geopolitical issues. We can
you are not mentioning geopolitical, but you don't want us to join the BRICS. Joseph, man, you're mentioning geopolitical, but we shouldn't join the BRICS. That's the geopolitical thing, but we should go and borrow. Come on, man. You can't have it both ways. This is the point I'm making. We can't have it both ways. BRICS is not a panacea. BRICS will not give you instant wealth. But when the big boys are going to a party, you can't stay at home and say, I'm going to watch TV. You go to that party with them, show your face, then go back home. That's what I'm saying. You can't just sit at home and say, it's not BRICS. Where else is... This is the largest subgrouping in the world right now. The largest in the world right now. Why are we in OPEC? Why are we there? Come on. So, I don't know, man. Ikenna, hop on board. Joseph, thanks. I appreciate your comments, man. Ikenna, you've got the floor. Ikenna going once, Ikenna going twice. Cheesy N. Please hold
Hello.
Ikenna, go ahead, sir. Yeah, what's up? Ikenna, go for it. You got the floor, sir. Ikenna has dropped off.
Sorry for my...
All right, let's get Cheesy in. We can have such an audio out.
I don't know what's happened to Twitter. This kind of...
Hello, can you hear me?
Ikenna, please go ahead, sir. Cheesy, hold on.
Okay. So I think I'm in agreement with the other guy. I don't think we should join BRICS now because BRICS now is kind of... I don't think they have a particular ideology that are going to follow. Because we've seen China, we've seen India, and we've seen Saudi Arabia, we've seen Iran. Those set of people have their own issues. So bringing them on board, there is no kind of a unique ideology that are going to promote there. They're just trying to boost or pull the G7 out of the base so that there is no concrete policy or concrete objective that they are going to achieve. And over the years now, they came into existence in 2003, or 2001. So what has been their concrete achievement since 2002 or 2003 that they have been in existence? That's something that they have done that have been so magnificent that will entice people to join.
Well, they've been a body of largest economies on earth, are probably the bulwark against the dollar. Right now, the trade between India and Russia is the highest it's been. The trade between China and Russia and India is the highest it's been. The trade between Brazil, Russia, and India is the highest it's been. The swap deals between Russia, China, Brazil, India, and South Africa are also the highest they've been. So it's made their governance, their economies easier. Now they've gotten the big boy like Saudi with unlimited resources. Now they can start to do a settlement system, which means that if you use their currencies, you don't need to use the dollar. Right now, they're in a position that are now a bigger organization. When the UN started, how many nations were in the UN? When the UN started, how many nations were there? Or League of Nations. When the League of Nations, how many nations were there? The African Union, how many nations were in the African Union when they started? What about ECOWAS? How many nations were there when we started? So we can't say this. There's not. Why are we in all these organizations? We're in ECOWAS, we're in AU, we're in Giant of Africa, we're in UN peacekeeping. Why do we do all these soft power things? Because it shows up somewhere in the economy. The more you show yourself, the more people will give you money. It's like advertising. The whole world has covered the BRICS conference. If it was not important, we wouldn't be talking about BRICS today. So saying we should not join, to me, is not really the issue. I'm not really concerned if we join. I'm saying there's an advantage to be there because of the largest economy in Africa and our two largest trade partners are in BRICS. That's my own take.
That is very solid. But I'm trying to say that with the objective now, will it go forward based on the members there? The member states there are in conflict. To be honest, we've seen outside Saudi Arabia and Iran how they have this issue that cannot be resolved with money at all. You understand? We've seen China and India about the border issue. We also seen that both Russia is in a crisis right now. So I don't know, in this kind of organization now, who will be at top?
Okay, what about the G?
Russia will be saying, okay, we want to buy more, they should buy more repots and stuff. Then India will be saying more of yen, and China will be saying more of yen and stuff like that. So I don't. It's kind of chaotic.
Okay. If you want to argue that, what about the G7? You have the EU and the US. They also have trade wars in the EU and the US. There are major trade wars. US put tariffs on aluminium, on French wine and chocolate. Look at how Europe taxes American IT companies. They fight trade wars in Europe and America, not military wars. But they still have the G7. They still meet. They still do their tea and whatever. They still meet. Don't they meet? The US just passed a minimum tax last year to target Ireland, which is a European nation that was keeping taxes low globally across the world. There is no nation without tensions. To say because there are tensions, nations cannot do trade together is not wrong in my view. The point is this: even in America, when you trade currencies, don't you do a currency pair? You go US, you go Europe. The same thing these guys are going to do now. They would pass a settlements body, a currency settlements, whatever, that would allow you, if you are a member of the BRICS, to trade those currencies and exchange without using the dollar. Today, if I want to import goods from South Africa, I have to go and get dollars and pay South African Reserve Bank. Now I don't have to anymore. If I go directly to South Africa, I can do Rand, I can do Yuan, because those currencies will be convertible in their own internal mechanism. That's where they are going to. You can pay for your crude oil in reals. It won't happen today or tomorrow, but that's clearly where they are going to. Why should we not be there as large the economy in Africa to direct where this thing should go to? Guess where they'll put the African Central Bank for BRICS? It won't be in Nigeria. It will be in Ethiopia, Egypt, or South Africa. So we've lost that alone. Why do you think Nigeria put ECOWAS in Abuja? Why? Why didn't we take ECOWAS to Ghana or Niger? So we're making the wrong argument here. We're saying, what do they do? Your own family, do you guys all hug each other? No, but because it's a family, you help yourselves out. If someone is going to Canada, you say, oh, my brother, they come there. The same thing. So these things, we're making the wrong arguments. So they are going to fight. Be there. Then drive policy from there. Watch it now. 5 years' time, you see importers from above using yuan to import. And we'll be here on Twitter arguing. Watch it.
Is that right? Thank you very much.
All right, cool. Let's Chikse, you got the floor, sir. Chikse.
Is it me?
Yes, sir. Chikse.
Oh, okay. I wanted to mention something about prior to that, someone was talking about the trade and imports and the rest. I wanted to actually clarify that as of 2022, Nigeria actually made a trade surplus.
Correct.
So you are actually not at a deficit. You're not an import. Nigeria is not an import-based country by that statistic. Also, regarding currency, I think what we're focused on too much in this country should be the price. But I think what we should focus on is stability. I was mentioning to someone the other day that the CFA is actually a better currency than the Naira because it's been stable for the last decade. The last 10 years, the CFA has only been volatile by about 4%, and which is a feat in its own, considering that they are nowhere near a strong currency to even be that stable. But the fact that across they have that homogeneity, they have that one block. They've been able to maintain that currency at a certain level. They've not taken much advantage of it because I don't see why they should not be one of the biggest trading blocks.
But the CFA is the euro, Abi. The CFA is just the euro, invariably, because the CFA is France, Abi.
I don't agree.
Why don't you agree? CFA is backed by France, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not backed by France.
It's backed by France.
When you look at the World Bank white papers regarding
Chikse, where is the reserves? Chikse,
if I can find it.
No, hold on.
I follow you. If I can find it, I'll send it to you.
I hear you, but a currency is backed by reserves, Abi.
Yes, the reserves are domiciled in France.
Good. So the reserves of Niger, of Guinea, of Mali, of Senegal are in France. Then France issues a CFA currency to the African nation. And then France gives an implicit guarantee. That's why it's stable.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't say it's backed by the euro. I would say that it's the domiciliary alone, the domiciliary of the currency makes it safe. That the place you're keeping the money in,
which is France,
safe. financially,
which
that's
is
not
France.
going to be devalued.
Which is
Because
France.
if you look at across West Africa, who would you trust?
I know, but that's France now. So the CFA is safe because it's kept in France and guaranteed by France, and France uses the euro. So I'm just using a stretch to say that the CFA is technically euro, the African euro. Abi?
I would, that's what I'm saying. Like the underlying fundamentals of it is not euro. Is what I'm trying to say. Like
it's France, Abi. It's France, Abi.
I'm saying it's based off on the economic strength.
But it's based off the reserves it's based off the reserves.
They are the ones that put the reserves there. They generate the funds and they put their reserves.
I hear you, but what I'm trying to say, because people are listening.
It's the same way. It's the same way Nigeria generates foreign.
Where are Nigerian reserves?
Like we have foreign reserves.
Where is the foreign reserves of Nigeria? Where is it?
It's like a credit facility from the other.
But where is it? Where is it?
Again, I'm saying the foreign reserves are like a credit. It's like, I've traded with you.
The foreign reserves of Nigeria are not in Lagos or Abuja. It's in America. Yes, it's in JP Morgan.
Exactly.
Okay, and JP Morgan has said that you don't have foreign reserves. You only have 3 billion. Abi? What I'm saying, I am saying that the French guys are different. The French guys took their gold and put in France. The CFA has an implicit guarantee from France. The assets are in France. 50% of it is in France. The French guys do their monetary policy in connection with France. So I agree with you. I'm simply giving the reason why the CFA is a bit more stable than Naira. That the French people literally are maintaining the CFA as a quote-unquote African subsidy of the euro because France uses the euro. They don't use the francs anymore. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. I hear you. Where I was driving with that actually was about the benefits of joining a bloc. You know that the benefits of joining a bloc is not necessarily what's on the surface, but building diplomatic relationships and diplomatic ties.
Exactly.
That it goes beyond just let's all sit together every time and discuss whatever challenge it is. It goes through things like they discuss things like passports. They discuss things like knowledge transfer. Can people from OAU go to Brazil and study about 1 or 2 things in Brazil and come back to Nigeria?
True.
Can you go to India and China and learn about how they are building their refineries, building their manufacturing plants?
True.
Exchange programs.
True.
So the support is not always financial. You could have tourism booming tourism, especially in situations where you have African indigenes in Brazil. The culture, I think there's some similarity in culture between
we can
Brazil
and to be clear with the other speaker, he's correct in saying that we can get all that without being in BRICS. And I agree with him, we can get it not being in BRICS. But the question is that if you could be in BRICS, why not be in BRICS? The chairman of the African Union is a country called the Comoros. He wants to be in BRICS. Their economy, Mauritius, he wants to be in BRICS, but he can't join the BRICS. He's too small. So he was in South Africa. He's the one pushing it. He wants to join, but he can't join because the Russian guy said to join. They look at many factors: the size of the economy, the influence. I posted on Twitter the criteria they use. Yeah, the requirement. The Russian foreign minister posted it there. They look at the criteria. They look at your status. If you have respect, they look at it, all that stuff, and that's why they want to join. So. And I give a clear example, like MTN, for instance, right? There's no company Nigeria has in the US that does the sort of business between US and Nigeria that MTN does between Nigeria and South Africa. So imagine if now they have a BRICS settlement exchange now. MTN will simply take all the Naira it makes from Nigeria and throw on that exchange, and then get the rands from South Africa and throw on that exchange. They don't need to request for dollar anymore from the CBN because they will sell it to importers directly. So importers that want to import from South Africa will go and buy a Nigerian. Right now, MTN will sell the paper to Nigerian banks, who will then sell rand to Nigerian importers. Nigerian importers will then buy that rand and import from China. MTN will then get the rand from South Africa. So MTN is taking their money, their dividends, without requesting for dollars from the Central Bank of Nigeria. That reduces the demand. But we're not seeing all this. We're looking at let's not lose face. We didn't invite Nigeria. No one cares about that. We're caring about that. We're missing out on connecting Africa, South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, Ethiopia. Imagine if we were all there now. Egypt, Ethiopia, South Africa, Nigeria. Imagine if we were there. Do you know what we can then do as the African BRICS? How we can, sort of create our own internal mechanism to maybe do transfers from the US, the other things we could do together. But we're not there. Like it or not, Ethiopia, Egypt, and South Africa are going to gain immensely from this deal. They're going to be talking to Saudi Arabia. They're going to be talking to Iran. They're going to be talking to Brazil because they're in that block. Can they talk to them outside the block? Of course. But now they're in the block. So it's easier. The same way everyone wants to join EU. Are you saying Turkey can't trade with UK or France without joining the EU? They can, they are, but why they don't join EU?
Like there's an allowance for partners that are not in the EU.
UK that did Brexit. Why did they?
There's a word they call it. Something partners, like side partners, sort of.
All right.
You're not exactly in the EU, but you can trade with them. You agree with them as a trade bloc. You agree with them. Whatever policies they make, some of them will apply to you, some wouldn't.
They're going to have a currency union in the BRICS. They won't have a BRICS currency. They'll have a currency union. That's what they're going to do. So they're going to say if you want to buy crude oil, you can use any BRICS currency to buy crude oil. So now if I can use so they'll say Ethiopia, give us a portion of your currency that's going to be backed by gold. That's what they're going to say. So if Ethiopia says, out of our BRIC, we're going to create BRIC, and that BRIC is backed by coffee or whatever, it will go into that settlement exchange. So Ethiopia can technically use BRIC to import goods directly from China. That's what they're going to do. And we're here arguing up and down.
A currency swap. I do agree.
They're going to do currency swaps. That's what guaranteed by
China.
China. That's what they're going to do. We're here arguing. What do we gain from it? As if we don't gain, why are we in ECOWAS? Can't we sell to Ghana without ECOWAS? Why do we do ECOWAS? Hey, Chickse, man, thank you so much for your comments. I appreciate that. Is it Shadi Designs? Shadi Designs, what's up, man? Where are you calling from?
Coming from the United States.
How you doing, sir? What's up?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Greetings, everyone.
There you go, man. Go ahead.
So, a couple of things. One is I'm not very knowledgeable. I'm trying to learn. I'm in the middle of listening and trying to cut my hair at the same time. But I've been hearing a lot and learning. I want to start with, I had done a little investigation and found that a lot of banks in Europe were drawing bullion gold into their reserves. And this was probably around 2017, this report that I got. Then a few years later, there was this agency that does this rating, and they rated gold back to a top tier, AAA or whatever it was, that would be equal to cash, U.S. dollars or whatever, something like that, right? I had the details and had known, exactly what, how to explain it or say what I was reading. So that was very interesting that Europe was starting to build this gold reserve. So that's showing a sign that shows a sign of something. And what that something is that I think the transition of the petrodollar is happening. And that's continuing to happen. They're buying gold and filling their reserves with gold. A lot of countries are doing that. What I think is, this is my opinion, of course, is the free trade in Africa needs to have a boundaries or restrictions so that we don't those laws don't allow people to come in and just take advantage of those of the free trade, because other countries that are more viable can come in and bid, and there's no restrictions at all. So it should be restricted to 60% of all of the free trade has to be done with African countries. That's crucial with that law that has gone into effect. And I do believe that if there are 15 members in ECOWAS, and so 9 of those member states are forced. Remember, we have to say this: forced since 1944 to keep their reserves in France. And so for ECOWAS to work and for Nigeria to benefit, now imagine Nigeria benefiting from those countries having their reserves and being able to control their monies and their investments and bids, and, a big project, because they don't have that now. They can't even have their military trained with other people than France in those former French colonies. France has the first right of refusals for any newfound mineral rights. They have the first right of refusal to this day.
Correct.
These are the things we don't talk about as to why things are the way they are. And then the other member states, standing by because they don't. Somebody mentioned before, don't want to agitate the United States. Well, it's time to agitate, and what I think the security that needs to happen so that you can be as strong as you can is to unify or unite with the other parts of Africa. I agree with Kalu Aja in that I think that we should have done more consolidation and integrating our economy in Africa before joining BRICS, that we would have been better off getting our stuff better together. But I think that the problem is that outside forces, it's not just the leadership, and that those leadership positions and those things are agitated by outside forces as well, or influenced by, is a better word. But the AU is been compromised. ECOWAS is certainly compromised, so ECOWAS cannot be effective if France has any decision in ECOWAS, which it does, which is why they don't have an ECOWAS currency now. And France comes up with this eco-currency just before they come up with their currency they've been working on for all these years.
It's very interesting to say that. It's very interesting that you are talking like you didn't know stuff, but you know a lot of stuff. And just to emphasize what you're saying, Nigeria was supposed to issue the West African currency, and the French guys said no, and then they went to France and they got this currency called ECO that they were going to use as their default reserve currency for West Africa. And guess who was the backer of the ECO? Of course, France. So if that plan had worked, then we will all now be using the quote-unquote ECO, which is the CFA with the dollar or with the euro sign in front of it. So yeah, so good point you bring up.
And I'm going to land with this. Now, had that happened, had ECOWAS initiated that and it gone through, Nigeria's economy would be better off. I don't know how much better off. You guys would know that. But if there's only 15% of trade that's happening within Africa, there's so much more room for trade to happen within Africa. But at the end of the day, I'm learning about why, because my question was, why didn't Nigeria join join BRICS? And you guys are talking about it, so I'm learning. Thank you very much.
I think Nigeria wanted to join, but I think they didn't do their application properly. Either they didn't do it well, but I suspect the reason is that we should have joined now, but they do not want to annoy the US. That's what I suspect now, because the US is coming up with full force. If you notice, no French country is joining because they are tied to France. And when I mean French countries, at least Cote d'Ivoire or Senegal, that could have joined, but they're not going to join because they don't want to annoy the French. So only Nigeria could have joined. Look at the countries that have joined. Egypt, aligned with Russia, right? Ethiopia, aligned with China. South Africa, aligned with China. So Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa. We could have gone both ways. But we're already in the West. We're already in the Western. We're in the Western camp. We're in the Western institutions. We should also join BRICS to give ourselves, so that they come and compete for us. If you don't join, then that means that you have no influence. You can't fight from outside. You can't stay outside and say this is a bad thing, or no one's going to listen to you, right? So if we were in there, then we tell China, listen, China, you are doing loans to Africa, but you are bringing your laborers in there. They don't listen to us because they don't want us to leave. But if you're outside now, China can say we have so percent of the global population. We have Egypt, which has a large population. Ethiopia is the second country with the largest population after Nigeria. So now they have the Africans behind. That's what they're going to say. They're going to say BRICS has got X percent of the African population because Egypt and Ethiopia have more population than Nigeria, and they have their economies larger than Nigeria if you combine both of them. And those are quote-unquote African nations. we lost out. So let's take it that we lost out. I don't see why what we're defending. We should try to get back in there. Influence comes with a group. When you see guys that have influence, they belong to something. You can't have influence on an island somewhere. The English are on an island. That's why they went and invaded the whole world, to have influence. If they stayed on their Anglo-Saxon island, they won't be Great Britain. They'll be Little Britain. So there's a reason why they left. So we can't just stay here and be the largest economy in Africa, and we're just sitting there not influencing decisions that could affect us down the line. That's just my take. What we can argue it up and down, but we should have been there. Hey, George. George Ian, how you doing, sir? What's up? George Ian Bongo, can you hear me, sir? You got the floor. George, if George is not ready,
yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, George, go for it. Real quick, what's up?
Good, man. I'm just... Sorry?
Let's get Decker John. Decker John, you've got the floor, sir. Mr. Decker John, Dachi, it says Dachi John. You guys should have simple Twitter names. Dachi John is not ready. Let's go to Big Max. Big Max, welcome, sir. Big Max, go ahead, sir.
Hi.
Hey, what's
Good
up,
evening,
man?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Great. So, I've been following your conversations, Kalu, and I just want to chip in on the BRICS issue. First, I want to state that in July, actually, I have it on good authority that Nigeria actually expressed interest to join BRICS. The challenge was that with the new incoming administration, all things were not set to prepare that application properly. The new development bank, which is the development bank that is actually behind the push for this, has also communicated. So the idea that over 40 countries did express interest back then in July to join BRICS. And then this list that just came out now are the ones they are formally inviting. It doesn't mean that these are the only countries that they're going to invite. It also doesn't mean that Nigeria is joining. Or Nigeria have missed out. I think it's just a matter of time. Is Nigeria formally interested in joining? Yes. And would it be a good thing for Nigeria to join BRICS, especially at this stage? Yes, absolutely yes. If you look at the mandate that BRICS had, the mandate is such that would promote a geopolitical and economic bloc for the global south. And this has been missing over the years. If you look at the plethora of multilateral institutions that we have currently in the world, none really embraces the interest of the global south. And that anomaly is what BRICS is trying to correct. And when you speak with officials at New Development Bank, you get a sense that, look, this is something that is promising and would have monumental impact on countries across the global south. These guys are going into capital markets to raise funding in local markets. They are tearing up multilateral trade agreements, and they are drafting new ones that will benefit countries. But most importantly, they are keeping away from the whole political leaning that comes with policies. They care about development. So I do agree with your point that yes, it's something that is going to benefit Nigerians very well if we get in, and we get in now. However, I do agree with Joseph, and Joseph made the point that, look, this is not going to be the panacea to the problem. And why do I say that? One is, it's going to take a long time before you would find a currency that would upend the dollar's hegemony. I've written an article on that a few weeks ago on LinkedIn. There are a couple of things that need to be in place before a currency would really take the place of dollars.
But I don't even think that that's what's more important. I think that what's very important for Nigerians is that we as a country should continue to pursue the multilateral trade arrangements and agreements that we have with different countries and we intend to have with different countries, even on our own. That is the only thing. And I say this because I was deeply involved in the whole African Continental Free Trade Agreement stuff. Maybe I would concede that the global pandemic slowed things down, but you've not seen a marked increase in trade integration across Africa, even with that free trade agreement and all the noise that we all made and all the engagements and all the travels and everything. You don't see that marked trade integration across these countries. So let's also not make the mistake of thinking that once we've joined BRICS, that it is now the rule for us economically. No, the work needs to be done. And that is what this administration should actually face. I've talked about a number of things that African countries as a whole can do. If you want to begin to untangle yourself from the whole the dependency, these swap agreements are one of them. You can have more of that, especially when you look at the trade dynamics and see where you can begin to lift that pressure of the dollars. You could tap other markets as well. It's not every time Eurobond. Everybody is running to the Eurobond market to go and borrow dollars. You can do other bonds. You can do panda bonds. You can do samurai bonds. You can do that. And even to the extent that you need the dollars, you can go into the swap market and swap these. But it makes these currencies more liquid and it helps to lift the pressure of the dollars. There are so many things that we can even begin to do as an African country that would help us to be able to do that. But really, the point that I'm trying to communicate is, yes, Nigeria needs to join BRICS, and I know that effort is currently on the way, and I hope it happens soon. But at the same time, we shouldn't make the mistake of thinking, look, this is what it is, and once we join BRICS, that all the problems that we have economically will be gone. Thank you. That's the point I wanted to make.
Thank you, Big Max. I think. Hold on. Let me. Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna mute some audios up. So, Big Max, I think your comments are just well taken and well intended. I agree with them 100%, and I think you've given us the clarity on both sides. I totally agree with you. I think somewhere along the line we dropped the ball. No problem. It's a brand new administration. Where I am taking issue is folks saying we don't have to join, because it looks like people are saying we didn't join and it's a slap on our face. So they're trying to defend the political side of it. That's where I'm taking this. I'm saying joining makes sense. Nigeria should join. If we are not joining now because we're not yet ready, I mean, when our ministers are appointed, that's fair. We can debate why there were no ministers and why we didn't join as soon as possible. But joining early makes sense, and we should join. Completely agree. I'm not again saying once you join BRICS, the price of Gala will become 10 kobo. It will never happen. Joining BRICS will not make dollar or naira appreciate. You are simply going from dollar to yuan. No change. But joining gives you benefits. Big Max, appreciate the comments, and they are recorded. Just to address the point, someone is writing online. These spaces are recorded, so you can't post what someone said or did not say. To be clear, the space is recorded. I said Nigeria was invited, or Nigerian bonds were added to the JP Morgan index because of the work that Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala did with low inflation for the longest period, with attracting FDIs and also keeping the macroeconomic indices stable. Thus, Nigerian bonds were added to the JP Morgan bond index. I also said the cost of not being in JP Morgan bond index is that you have to go issue Euro bonds. They are not mutually exclusive. You can be in the index and still issue your bonds. But if you are in the index, of course, you get bonds at a cheaper cost than going to issue Euro bonds. The spaces are recorded. Please do not say what I did not say because you want to defend your principle. Thank you so much. Lamba, you've got the floor, please. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Carlo. Thank you so much for this platform. I think I just want to chime in a couple of things. Basically, what you said the other time. I think I will just echo on that. So Nigeria can join the BRICS bloc, but I don't think we should join for now, to be honest. So maybe in the next 1 year, maybe in the next 2 years, right? Or for now, looking at the economic comatose that we currently are, looking at, Nigeria is just trying to pick up ourselves back. The BRICS bloc, I don't see any form of stability.
I don't understand what you're saying. You are saying that we're in the comatose, so we should not join an organization that would give us FX. We should wait till we're in a good position before we join.
Yes, not necessarily that, but I would say because obviously joining in geopolitics, right? I would think if you are joining the BRICS, right, you are putting some sort of an undertone aggression or spiting the Western side. So I would think that since we are just trying to kick back or kickstart the economy now, I would think we can still take our time, observe the stability of the bloc. It's a bloc where you have China, India, Saudi, and Iran are going to join pretty soon. So, to be honest, I don't see these countries, China, India especially, and Saudi, Iran, I don't see them working hand in hand with
each other. It doesn't matter now. But in the same G7, US and Canada are having trade wars over aluminium and washing machines. But they are still US and Canada. They don't have to be buddies now.
Yeah, but US and I don't know how to. US and Canada is in G7, right? I would say US owns US owns like the proxy owner of the G7. So with the G7, I don't. For me personally, right? It's quite different with what
looks like we're making excuses, bro. Looks like we're making excuses, bro. Because in Euro, they are taxing the Google, they are taxing Facebook. Largest fine them up and down. They are still in G7. They are still there. They are fighting their economic wars. Bans here, tariffs here. They are still there, right? So
we need to save our face. I mean,
what face are we saving? You just said now that we're in comatose. And this BRICS a way. It's not the only way. It's a way for us to get access to the Chinese market. China has stopped funding projects in Nigeria. They've stopped funding the gas pipeline. They've stopped funding railways. So if we're now in BRICS, that's a new conversation. We're now in a bloc that they want to succeed. They want BRICS to succeed. So if we are there, it helps us. So I don't get the point you're making, bro.
A bloc where you have Saudi and Iran.
Saudi and Iran in China have now passed a rapprochement. They are now exchange ambassadors. What the US could not do, China seems to be doing it. They've exchanged ambassadors. Their leaders have met. They seem to be working together. Saudi and Iran, Google it. They just passed a trade agreement. These are Sunni and Shiites. It goes beyond economics. Right. But they understand that the economics mean that they must work together. Belgium has more division than Nigeria between their tribes, but they understand that Belgium has got to work together as a country. Same thing with Iran and Saudi Arabia. What they've achieved in the last 1 year has been more that's been achieved in the last 30 years by the West trying to bring them together. So I think that India right now is fighting a war with China on the border. I mean, they're using sticks and stones, but still, look at what's happening. They're in the same country, BRICS.
Mr. Kalu, would you think maybe we should take our time,
take our time to do what? To do what? What are we observing? BRICS did not start yesterday now, Lamba. It didn't start yesterday. Ethiopia and Egypt are fighting over the Blue Dam, but they're in BRICS. Are they not in BRICS? They're not fighting over the dam. Egypt wants to blow the dam up, but they're in BRICS because economics doesn't care about these things. Time is your enemy. If you sit down and wait, time passes you by. Opportunity goes away from you. What are you waiting for? Are you saying we didn't have time to review this? They just told us, hey, we're going for a party, but Ghana has dropped out. Does Nigeria want to join BRICS? No, that's not how it worked. You just heard Big Max explain that we've had series of conversations. It's online. I just told you, if you go online to ABC published a report. Nigeria was interested. How they put it, Nigeria was interested, but didn't join. It's there. There's nothing to hide. I'm not sure this excuse you're making. If you join BRICS today, Gala will not become cheap. But to say we should not join, because somehow it's too fast or it's not. I don't know.
I'm not saying we can join, but what I'm saying is it's not necessarily fairly new, right? But I mean, the whole kickstarting of this organization, trying to build the entire organization, I feel it's still fairly new compared to what you have in the IMF.
Look at UAE. Look at the UAE. Big was going to speak very soon. The UAE, Dubai, is there. Iran, that is harassing Dubai, is there. Saudi Arabia that is fighting with UAE on the side of UAE to harass Iran is there. Why do you think they're all there? Why do you think they're all there? Why are they all there? Why are they all there?
I'll think they're trying to get off the old dollar hegemony. That's what I would think.
Big Max, do you want to add anything to the conversation just on this BRICS issue?
Yes, please. I wanted to. So many of the conversations I've had with a lot of people have pointed to the fact that people are concerned about the geopolitical aspect of things when it comes to these things, and people are making the mistake and they're thinking that, look, once you've joined BRICS, it means that you have totally aligned yourself out from the United States. But I do want to remind Africans, in January this year, I wrote an article called Opportunities and Rivalry. In 2022, there was a complete change in dynamics and how these world superpowers were viewing African countries. One, it became a matter of interest. There were a flurry of activities where many of these countries were trying to jump on top of one another to be able to get Africa's interest. That political stage has changed. It is what it is now. And if Africa if African countries, as a whole, and Nigeria in particular, continue to put geopolitical concerns ahead of their own personal development, then ahead of economic development that would benefit its citizens, then that means we still haven't understood the level at which we are playing right now. This is no longer what it was then. Look, there are so many things that are dynamically important to African countries right now. One is we have come to realize that we must do what is best for ourselves. And these countries understood that. They've understood that as well. So when you see them sending all their envoys and trying to have one summit after the other, it's because they know that African countries have come to a completely different realization, that we call the shots and we need to do what is best for us. Now, in joining BRICS, it doesn't mean automatically that your relationship with the United States is going to deteriorate. The idea of BRICS is that, look, you want to improve multilateral trades across these continents. After all, these are continents that you trade very well with. The trade dynamics is there to support it. Two, is that countries in Africa are under immense pressure when it comes to this level of transactions that have to do the round trip through the dollars. It makes complete sense that African countries would seek alternatives. These things it's not an emotional thing, except if you don't want your country to survive.
I think it's just, look at it this way, it's just to hedge. It's just to hedge. I'm very surprised that, look at Saudi Arabia. They have the U.S. support protecting them in quotes, but they've still gone to BRICS. I don't think they want to leave the U.S. umbrella, but they want two umbrellas instead of one umbrella. I think that's how I view them. They want two umbrellas over their head. They want the option of China and the option of the U.S. And if Saudi it makes sense.
In today's world, because in today's world, I think what's imperative for African countries is do not get into that place where people are trying to drag you this way or that way.
Correct.
Right from day one, since the global health pandemic, there's been a change in that policy. And African countries are emphasizing that we must put ourselves first in every decision we make. And it is something that other countries ought to respect. If I'm running the foreign ministry in Nigeria today, It is something that I will climb on the mountains and shout. Every decision has to be viewed across economic lens, across political lens, and make sure that it is the ultimate Nigerians that are benefiting. And if we have done this analysis and seen that BRICS as a nation, given the strategic trade relationships we have with these countries that are members, that is going to help us to be able to hedge some of the US risk and to be able to hedge some of the geopolitical risk and reduce some of the geopolitical tensions, then why won't we do it?
All right, and then let's move on, right? But let me just ask a question. I want you guys to tell me, right, what significant project the West has funded in Nigeria from 1999 to date. Give me the project that the West has funded in Nigeria from 1999 to date. Just send me a tweet or DM. Just say this project was funded by the West, is significant from 1999 to date. I can give you the ones that China has funded, right? I can give you the railways are all Chinese. The international airports are all Chinese and all that. So you give me the one.
What about Siemens? The Siemens
hold up. Who is funding the money? Where's the money coming from? Is Siemens funding it?
The funding is from German government. So it's West. It's part of the West.
So German government just woke up and gave Nigeria money to do Siemens, Abi? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? That is the West is funding Siemens? Is that what you're telling me?
As far as I'm concerned, the entire Europe and America, they are all West.
Yeah, so
that's the idea.
No, but who is paying for the transformers? Germany?
It's a loan in form of projects. It's a loan funded by the government.
Okay. So
by
Siemens.
the German system.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. I'm putting up Siemens. Let me come back to you on that, but don't jump the line, sir. Let me get Nassim to come in. Nassim, you got the floor, sir. Nassim going once, Nassim going twice. Let's get Tochukwu. Mr. Tochukwu Iheanacho, please go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you, Carlo. Well, I want to say this. I don't want to sound like someone who doesn't trust Nigeria, but let me say it from a place from experience. Whether we join BRICS or we don't join BRICS, we're not serious. We're not going to benefit from the benefits that BRICS give us. But let me say this. The benefit that we could get first is that if we join BRICS now, one, it will increase our respect. Now, those of us who are pandering over to America, I was just going through the statistics that shows the countries that America import food from. The only country in Africa that they import food from is Cote d'Ivoire. So, can you tell me that is America or England our biggest trade partner? No, we don't have any benefit of whatever from them. And at this very moment, politically, we are a stooge. We don't command their respect. So those of us who are handing over our job to have a Eureka political stand, we don't have any. Because if we have their respect, they would have approved our request to be as a permanent member in the U.S. security. They don't want us. They just want us to be at it. So if we join BRICS, invariably that political respect that we want, they will start taking us a lot more serious. So I would say this, they will not say because the way we do things in Nigeria, we tend to, when we see something, when you hear a rumor that Nigeria, the truth about it is that if you investigate further down, we have applied and we were rejected. But I don't have any evidence to portray what I just said, but judging by how we do our things in Nigeria, we are never prepared. We always go things hand in cap, no preparation. We don't look at issues from all angles very well before we do things. We were rejected because at the moment we've not shown capable leadership to direct what is best for Nigeria. And judging by what our current economic plans are going on, in the next 5 years we're going to still be crying woe because what we have seen so far is shown that we do not have a plan. And it's not miracle, it's not by prayer, it's not by prophecy, it's not by anything. Clearly, we do not have a plan. In the next 1 year, Carlo, please note this, in the next 2 months, we don't have a plan. And if in the next 2 months, after this minister have been signing, we don't have a plan, that will tell you how the regime will go over the next 4 years. So by the next 4 years or 5 years, we will still be where we are. So, as a country, if we want to go ahead, we must sit down as the people and say, what do we want for ourselves? Until we have those conversations, we will not move forward. All this cut and nail thing we're doing economically, politically, it will not work. No matter how well we pretend and say, yeah, we're going to do it this way, do this way, do this way. Because we're not taking the right people. Look at the ministerial position they took. The wrong people who have formed the nation, and the people you are still bringing in to come and minister and run the country. It's not going to work. Let's not deceive ourselves. You cannot give what you don't have. And we keep saying this all the time. I've heard, Kalu, you say a lot of things. I've heard people say, oh, good ideas. But it baffles me. Is it that we don't have people like you in the country to bring in and run things the way it should be done? We are not doing, as I said, time is a currency that we don't know how to use. We don't know how to use. I would not want to say so much, but I've been in the petroleum economics in the space where we do things. If I tell you what we do as a country in our investment in the oil and gas sector, you will cry for us. You will cry for us. So let me not go there. So we're not serious. And as a matter of fact, BRICS can benefit any country. But politically, if we join today, now, it will change the dynamics on how we are perceived by Americans, by the British, by the French. But at the moment, we don't have the respect. I use the mic. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, key point you're bringing up that our trade is Eastern, not Western. So if our trade is Eastern, why are we not joining the group that the Eastern Bank, in quotes, is setting up? It just means it's just not. It feels very, very easy. You are selling gala to the East, not to the West. Then the Eastern guys have a bank. Then you see, I'm not ready. You take your time before you join. I'm just saying, like, join and then make those deals there. That's how I look at it. Nassim, are you back on now to speak, sir? If I add first leg, yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, so go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just want to say something about this alliance that is going on everywhere right now. I think Nigeria should have taken, there's a big opportunity Nigeria should have taken it, because South Africa is already reaping the benefits. Like, the Chinese are already funding South Africa's social development and all of that. And to think about it, the pressure on dollar, I think our relationship with BRICS will help reduce the so much pressure that we have on dollar that is creating a lot of inflation and all that for us. And it's even an opportunity for Nigeria to float its own currency and see how far we can innovate with it and all that. To me, I just want to cut this short, like, our relationship with BRICS is very important for our economic development. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, just to be clear, first of all, Hobson and say something else. It's not mandatory that we join. It's not that if we don't join, the economy is going to crash. I'm just saying, but okay, if we were invited to join, why didn't we join? If we applied to join, why didn't we follow it through? That's just the point. Well, if we were Comoros...
There was an application.
Of course there's an application. It's online, there's an application now.
Nobody knew what happened.
Between the handover, I think that's where the ball was dropped, and then the new guy took too long to set up his ministry, so the new minister didn't have time to review the file. That's what I think happened, if you ask me personally. So simply say that, we get it, but to someone start saying there's no benefit to join the BRICS, sounds a bit like you're doing sour grapes, yeah. First Light, you've got the floor, sir. First Light 2025, how you doing, sir? Go for it. First Light.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kalu.
Hey, what's up, man?
First of all, I don't want Nigeria to join BRICS. I don't want Nigeria to join BRICS, and I tell you why. As much as everybody thinks that joining BRICS, like you said, is not going to change anything in terms of economic structure and the rest of them, is BRICS going to give that money we need? The answer is no. But I'll tell you something. Does BRICS need Nigeria in Africa? Yes, they need Nigeria. What is it they need in Nigeria? They need our gas. They need certain things from Nigeria. And let me tell you, I like the non-alliance policy that Nigeria has adopted from the beginning. It's much better for us. It's more safer for us. What do we need to do? We need to fix our infrastructures. We need to fix our internal problems. Until we fix those local internal problems that we have in terms of our electricity, these are things we need to fix first. Otherwise, the same way the West has fixed on us, that China had to come and be the one doing majority of the things for us. That's the same way this thing is going to end. Of course, who are the people in those places? They have money. If you check their manufacturing industry, they are people who have excelled. The only reason they chose South Africa from Nigeria was because it was the most developed, it was the most industrialized country in Africa. Why didn't they take the likes of Morocco and the rest of them? But South Africa had those factories. Majority of the big factories of the big manufacturing vehicles is in terms of vehicle, even though they have internal problem too. But that industrial system, they have it. They have stable electricity. They have stable economic system. That's why. So for me, when we now come and say that Nigeria wants to apply, they didn't take Nigeria, I think that's just too far from it. We don't need to join. And I will continue to say this. Whether we don't have this, we don't have that. The point is that Nigeria is too big for any country, for any member of that or this thing to say is going to ignore. They're not going to ignore Nigeria. They will be the one begging to join. And that's why I said we don't need to join. Stay non-alliance to any of them. If they bring business to you, do business. But you going to seek for permanent member in those places. You can't rival those guys' money. How much is Saudi Arabia having in reserve? Even the Russian that we're talking about, the kind of money they have, Nigeria is not close there. So they will continue to take full advantage of the things we don't have in the name of they're going to borrow us money, in the name of they'll come and fix it for us.
Yeah, but the thing is that this thing you are saying it reminds me of the argument we had in 2015 when Nigeria wanted to pull out of the JP Morgan index, and they were like, we are too big, no one should tell us what to do, we should stay non-aligned, it's a US bank, what will happen if we leave, who are they, it's not just a bank. And here we are today borrowing from outside parties. The point is this.
Well, Mr. Kalu, can I ask you a question?
I let you talk.
Huh?
I let you talk. So,
pardon?
See, we are exporting to the East. So we need yuan, we need rupees. That's our biggest market that buy things from us and also we sell to. Biggest market. We need those guys. And they're in a club. Just like how you go and join a Ikoyi club. You don't have to join a Ikoyi club to get contracts. But people play golf because they want to meet people playing golf, not because they like golf. Who the heck likes golf? But you go join the golf club because you want to meet people. The same reason you can say non-financial, why should you join BRICS? Number two, there's going to be funding available there. Nigeria, and I'm not trying, again, let me just apologize before I say this. So, Nigeria is in the Organization of Islamic Countries because there is money and funds there that goes to member countries that join. We have a large Muslim population. We are in that organization. Those guys have funded the government of Qatar, the government of, I've forgotten their names, they funded projects in the southeast of Nigeria. Simply because we're a member of that organization, we get access, it unlocks capital that has flown back to Nigeria. Does it mean that because we are not 100% Muslim, we should not go and join OIC? There's capital that can be unlocked to grow Nigeria. We're in the ECOWAS, where we get invited to G20. We're not a member of G20. We get invited to G20, where Tinubu is going to go for the new one in India. So to say we should not join, we are they cannot ignore us. They're already ignoring us. They're already ignoring us in the West. Many institutions are no longer coming to Nigeria to invest. FDIs, FPIs have fallen in Nigeria. We're already being ignored. So I don't get the point you're making, sir. But you've got the floor again.
Mr. Kalu, this thing you are saying, that's why, don't you think, for you to punch out that you want people to come and join you, don't you think there are certain internal systems you need to sort out? Do you think with this kind of system we have now, don't you think we need to sort them out? Because the issue is that even before 2015, the things that happened from 2015 was predicted in 2012. It was predicted in 2012. And we were saying there were measures that need to be taken before end of 2014. Did we take those decisions?
Let's just move on. So the point is, because we're going to go round and round this BRICS thing. The point I know, but we have three topics. We have JP more. I hear you.
You need to fix your home.
You are never going to have. Nigeria is never going to be ready to fix anything to join. We are never going to be ready.
So that's the part I don't. That's the part I don't agree. If we keep on saying this, so we don't fix our house, we launch out to go and join this same system. In this system, everybody on that platform had one thing or other working for them internally. We're still battling with so many things.
Ethiopia today is fighting a civil war. Not just small civil war, big civil war. They're in BRICS. Other countries have issues. They're in BRICS. See, let's not overplug this issue. The point I'm making is simply this. We're not saying you should go to where the money is. If the money is in joining the Caribbean nations, go and join the Caribbean nations. That's what you want money. Nigeria needs investments. Nigeria needs money. We've heard we need FDIs. Where is the FDI in the world today? It's in China. It's in the Middle East. That's why you have this significance of FDI.
Here we are in Nigeria complaining that China is giving us too much. We're going to sell our sovereignty to China. Sometimes I don't get us in Nigeria.
I have not said that.
We borrow too much. We complain that we don't want China to take over everything. And then we're trying to fix it internally. Then we now say that, no, we need to join these people because we need their money. I don't get the point.
So, bro, I don't know. What I'm just telling you is this. If you look at the whole world, where the source of FDIs in bulk today is going to be number one, the West, number two, China, number three, the Middle East. The West are giving FDIs based on the green economy. They've already said they will not fund oil and gas. They will not. They call gas even dirty. So that means that a Nigeria that exports fossil fuels is in trouble. You have China, you have the Middle East. Those two guys don't have an issue with funding fossil fuels and also funding fertilizers and things like that. So
will those people still not fund us if we don't join BRICS? Is that what you're saying?
So then why are we in the IMF? Why are we in the AU? Why are we in the ECOWAS? We can also do relationship with those guys without being the IMF, in the ECOWAS. You can't eat your cake and have it. We can't default to they would give us even if we're not there. If we are there, we are talking to them. Why do you join Ikoyi Sports Club? Why do you join our Owerri Tennis Club? Can't you still meet that guy outside? Those things matter. No. Why do we have World Economic Forum and everyone goes to Davos?
Okay, you are getting me wrong. I'm saying, fix your house.
But the house is not fixed now, and should we wait till we fix the house?
Which is what World Bank, which is what the IMF.
So, but we can't wait, man. We can't wait to fix the house. We can't wait, bro. People need jobs today, so we can't wait. This is an excuse. Fix your house first. We can't wait. Nigeria needs to get stuff going. Ugochukwu, you got the floor, sir. Ugo Celeste, you've got the floor. Hey guys, just to re-emphasize, right? This topic, we have two other topics on this space, and they are big. BRICS is just a sidebar. We're not there. The NBS has said only 4% of Nigerians are employed. Only 4% of Nigerians are employed according to the NBS. Do you agree with that? Does that make sense to you? That if you count 100 Nigerians, only 4 are unemployed. Also, the JP Morgan has said the Central Bank of Nigeria only has, based on their estimates, only has, give or take, about less than $5 billion in reserves. This means Nigeria cannot float. It's out of the question. It means that Nigeria is going to struggle to pay for imports. It means your currency in the near to short future cannot readily appreciate. Does this what do you feel about this? I want to hear those other topics as well, if you guys don't mind. Ugochukwu, you've got the floor. If you're going to speak, we're going to move to Ote. You don't have a word, so go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Kalu. Yeah, maybe I start with the BRICS and then I'll talk about the other issues. I like to see it maybe from the political side of things. For a while now, we've always known the West and the East, communism, capitalism, US, UK, Europe against Russia, against China. But in the midst of all that, if you look at the role India had played, they've always played the middleman who tends to relate with all the groups equally for their own benefit. So if I even see Africa as a whole and not just even Nigeria, it's even much better for us now, while we are still trying to develop, to make sure we are not 100% aligned to any ideology or to any of these groups. We should be anywhere they are, we should interact with all of them. We should form alliance with all of them for our own best interest. So there shouldn't be this idea of US has always been this, they're democratic, or US, we have World Bank, we have IMF, or maybe we have benefited from them before, and so we should just stay with them. No. At every time, we always need to question our decision around what is the need for us, how does it benefit us, and if there's benefit anywhere, by all means, let's go for it. Let's have that alliance. If this doesn't work out, the other one works out. If I look at it from the technical point of view, maybe industrialization as the case may be, if Germany doesn't sell me the machine I need to run my plant, let me go to China and get it. If China is telling me, oh no, you guys, you don't follow these rules, you don't follow these new principles, then I go to India. So we should have those options that allows us to grow, especially in a case where our economy is still at a low level. We can't start forming strong 100% bond with any ideology at this point. That's my point on BRICS, and that's why I would say yes, Nigeria should go for BRICS. Let's get every opportunity we can get from there and move on and better the lot of our people. On NBS unemployment report, well, the reality is what's on ground is more important than all the papers the guys are talking about. So if what they are saying, when unemployment is even worse now from what we are seeing on the street, and then somebody comes and tells you something different that makes it look like it's better, well, I think I leave that thought to them to decide on what they want, whether they want to live in a lie or they want to accept the reality of things and work hard to get our economy back in top gear. On JP Morgan report, well, it's so sad. I feel quite sad that the CBN had given support to individual businesses without full approval, without considering the overall impact on Nigerian economy. The question I'll be asking is, the loan they are giving to Dangote refinery, I wish they had given it to 10 or 20 modular refineries and get them working now. By now, we'll not be talking about having to import fuel. So clearly it shows the managers of our economy have made some wrong decisions and we are suffering for it. And of course, there's no better time than now to work in-house and get things working. Thank you.
Yeah, and I also think that I think my issue with JP Morgan is that it took JP Morgan to reveal what our CBN should be telling us. The reason why JP Morgan is a shock is because our own central bank did not tell us. We were not aware of the $5 billion. We're not aware of all these borrowings to the U.S. banks, because it should have been in the annual report that the central bank should have been publishing. I mean, the central bank, if you're a bank and you don't publish annual reports, the central bank will sanction you, but the central bank itself did not publish its own reports. Nothing illegal was done. The swaps are not illegal. Borrowing is not illegal. But full disclosure meant that they should have told us what they were doing, so that there will be no shock. The reason why Naira is moving up so fast is because this is news to us. If we had heard that they borrowed money in 2020, then it won't be news to us today. Hence, we won't see this huge, shocking rise in the dollar. That's just my take on this. So I think it should full publicity, or full disclosure should have been done by the central bank that they are doing all these. So that we don't buy the Naira thinking that there's 35 billion backing it. Meanwhile, there's just 5 billion backing it. I think that's where the issue is. Thank you, Gochuko. Let me get Philip Udeocho. Philip, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
Yeah, thanks, Kalu. Just go to the next person. I'll come back here.
Got you. Ote Amuta. Hey, what's
Yeah, I just presented. Yeah.
Oh, that was you. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah. Sorry, First Light, your hand is still up. What's up, man? Did you have something to add, First Light?
No, K, you can go on. Just go on.
All right. So again, guys, just my own take on this. NBA, just to read this message real quick, I just have to, sorry about that. Someone says, Kalu, do you think that the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics has done this for political reasons? Yes or no? Tough call to make. I think that they could have done a report that had many answers, but I think they went to the easy one, which was to say it's 4% because it helps the government. That's how I'll put it. I mean, when you do a risk, if you do an annual report, you always put worst case scenario, best case scenario, middle of the road scenario. I think they more or less went with this best case scenario of 4% because it helped the narrative. But the problem is that I'm not sure who can use this 4% to make any meaningful planning in Nigeria. Can you imagine, again, I've been that point, can you imagine you do a paper, maybe you're a fintech, you want to raise money, and you go tell the guy in New York that you want to do a fintech because 50% of the youth in Nigeria are unemployed. But in the paper you are putting that NBS is saying only 4% are unemployed. And the NBS is the official, should we say, the official guy that owns the unemployment numbers. So you are saying your business case, that your business solution will get jobs for the huge unemployed, but the government is saying only 4% of people are unemployed. So that's just my take. Abia, you've got the floor, sir. Abia's first son. Are you calling from Abia?
Good evening, everyone. I greet us. Oga Carlo, I greet. Well, let me start from the last thing you said. One, it's a government issue. We all know that. There is nothing good that has ever come out from APC. That's for that. Let's not even paint it. Because when I had the figure of it means for you to say only 4% of your population is unemployed. Let us take a census here. Just here on this space. And let us see how many persons are employed. There's a difference. Even UK, how many percentage of people are unemployed in UK? You want to tell me that Nigeria is far better than UK, United States of America when it comes to unemployment rates? We should cut ourselves some slack. These guys, they think we are stupid. There is a great disconnect between the current generation and the generation that went to school, that after school they gave them 504 and 505. Upon graduation, they got a job, they got a scholarship to leave the country, they went to Canada to further their studies, and the rest of them. There is a great disconnect. We can see it every day. And that is why I was still here trying to understand how someone graduated from where they never graduated from, when someone could rule the country with a NEPA bill. You get my point? So when they came out and they said 4%, oh my God, that is a lie. That is a lie. You cannot tell the world that you have an unemployment rate of 4%. When you still go about, your naira is falling every day, you still go about seeking for loans, seeking for help, seeking for aid. There's a group I belong to. This evening, they were listing the achievement of India. They say, oh, Indians, they are heading the NHS, they are heading Google, they are heading this and that. And I told them, of a truth, I don't envy these guys. I am happy for them, because when you fail to plan, you have planned to fail. These guys, India, Nigeria, Indonesia, and what other country that was listed, and there was a prediction that we are going to come into the first G20 countries. These other countries have gone past us. They have gone past us. We are still struggling with a plenty power supply since the inception of democracy. Nigeria is still tackling one particular issue. So we keep deceiving ourselves. We keep telling lies because we feel we want the outside world to think the government is working. How come all of a sudden, from the time the previous administration handed over to this current administration, so there have been a massive recruitment and employment process. So many persons are employed. There's a difference between being employed and being gainfully employed and being gainfully employed. Now, Yes. If you ask me, it's better we join so we have more broader markets. Because these other countries, they are trying to cut down the use of petrol and diesel. And tell me, what is the natural resources we have that we sell often? Is it not petrol? Is it not the crude oil? These guys are inventing electric cars, and they know this time they hope to wipe out diesel engines from the United Kingdom in 2030. So you can imagine what will be the hope of Nigeria in 2050 if we continue this way. These other countries are taking right measures to see that they don't depend on your oil anymore.
Okay, Abia, looks like I lost you, Abia. If you're still speaking, you're not audible. All right, let's get Leslie. Abia, I've lost you, so I'm going to get Leslie to hop in here. Hey, Leslie, Leslie.
Guys. How far we go?
Hold on, Leslie.
Now look at Gabon.
Abia,
Gabonese president
Abia,
going in for the third term.
Abia,
look at it. If the military takes over,
Abia, can you write it up? Yeah. I think I'm losing him again. Leslie, let me take you. Leslie, go ahead, sir.
Yes, good evening, guys. Carlo, I greet you.
How are you doing, sir? What's up?
I think I appreciate Abia's, emotion,
passion
into the whole matter. The fact is that, yes, it's passion, Youth the verse. That's what the friend told me. Youth the verse. Anyway, the NBS report on unemployment disturbing. I think basically because the parameter for measurement of this disagreement. Otherwise, they've not really erred by the report they have released. The sample size you use determine the choosing to use 100,000.
Leslie, your audio is going in and out. Could you speak up a bit and just maybe it's moving in and out, your audio?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Said, okay, the sample size to arrive at that, number, they've not done their work. Sometimes I read an article where some lie or data lie, use the wrong parameter as a tool. In this instance, of course, is that the number of unemployed.
Yo, Leslie, I'm going to have to move on. Your audio is really bad, Leslie. So sorry about that, right? Your audio is not coming in through clear. Let me get Saki Boys. Saki Boys, hope your audio is a lot better. And we've got about 20 minutes, guys, to round up. So we're going to round up to the hour.
I will assume it is better.
Yes. Go ahead, sir. Okay. Yes, very clear, very loud. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good evening, all, and thanks, Carlo, for this opportunity. I'll start first of all with JP Morgan. JP Morgan pretty much put out figures that ruffled the market, and I think in the next couple of months we will still be feeling the shocks. It will impact on the confidence on our ability of our central bank, and I think where we borrowed money from the NBS will also make things also pretty worse, because people will now start doubting the validity of the information coming out from institutions of trust, institutions of state from Nigeria. So something that we'll need to find a way, the present government has to find a way of dealing with. I do not envy them at this point in time. On BRICS, it's clear, the data has been out there for at least the last decade that growth is in the East. And no matter how much we try to run away from that, growth is in the East. The West knows that growth is in the East. And the East has spare cash. And our biggest trading partners is in the East, whether we like it or not. So, but if we choose to go the other direction, it's up to us. We would live with the consequences of it down the line. Nobody is compelling anybody to join BRICS. Nobody is compelling you to teach your other partners. But if you are not in the room when the decision is being made, you will obviously not be part of the
voting block, as they will say. If you do not buy a lottery ticket, you can't win. You can't win the lottery. So if we are not there, it makes things more difficult in the conversations that would happen down the line with regards to BRICS. On NBS data, I think NBS has been trying to manage this conversation for over a decade. I've been following NBS reports for some time. And I remember being in a space about 2 months ago where the former NBS Caesar pretty much mentioned about the pressure from government to readjust what is the baseline for employment, what rate should we use? Should we use 20 hours? Should we use 10 hours? And should we use 1 hour? And I think this time around they chose to lower the bar, and that pretty much made everybody look employed pretty much in the country. But you can't run away from the fact that the streets is not smiling on anybody. People are having a pretty tough time, and this data is just a buzzword. People who are going to make investments know that they are not going to rely on the underlying criteria of 1 hour a week or so.
But that's strange. That's strange. Now, if we're the guys that are going to make decisions and are going to rely on the NBS figure, then what kind of economy are we building? That's the thing.
No. NBS actually, the unemployment of 1% or 4% was just a buzzword because they made as we say in data science, they put the footnote. The footnote was like, this is based on 1 hour of work or thereabouts, which is, you and I know that's crap. Even 1 hour of work in North America or in Europe does not carry you through the month. So when your statistics agency is trying to make that look that is the baseline for unemployment, that's nothing. Anybody is going to read. If US presents the data today of 1% of 1 hour of work to determine employment rate in America, everybody in America will pretty much be employed. Everybody in Canada or any developed client will pretty much be employed. So it doesn't make any. It's just for me. When I saw the figures, I just told my guys that like people in government want their people to feel good, and they're just giving them something to cheer about. But no businessman will look at it and say this doesn't add value to their statistics. They will look at the other figures, which NBS always publishes, and that's the thing I like about NBS. Their reports are pretty much extensive, and we must give them kudos. I think they turn out one of the most reasonable figures, data banks you can look at when you're looking at statistics from Nigeria. So you look at the other things to measure the economy and make your decision. But saying 4% and you carry that everywhere, we are the best in Africa. I think that's what the government wants to do about. We have done so much. We reduced employment to 4%. Maybe next month they will tell us they reduced it to 0%. But
everybody's employed.
But it doesn't matter.
Let me read something an Oga sent to me on this report. He says unemployment improved in 2020 and 2023. Despite the cash crunch in Q1 2023. So when Nigerians were lined up to collect cash at the ATMs and were not working, employment went up. Then GDP came down between Q4 2022 and Q1 2023. But unemployment went down as well. So what he's saying is that how can your economy grow, right, when you are lining up to collect cash during that time? Of course, we're lining up to collect cash. But then your economy is falling, but your employment rate is going up. So who was employing the people that were getting a job in 2022, 2023? So people were getting employed, but your GDP was falling. Doesn't make any sense. And
we're saying the same thing because if you say paraventure, you are the chief economist in Petrobras and you want to make an investment decision in Nigeria and you are looking at this data, you would discountenance the fact about the employment growth. You'll be looking at, is the economy growing? You'll be looking at GDP data showing that like obviously Nigeria is in dire straits. You will not be looking at the buzz thing that like unemployment is improving. You look at the cost of living. you look at the other indices, which is clear also in the NBS report, clearly saying that we are in a bad situation. So when they choose to pick up something that they just want to play with, you see that a lot in when you're presenting data to your senior executive. You want to create some form of good, as if you are doing well, even in a very bad.
No, it's well taken. Your comments are well taken. I'm just saying, like, that just by a casual look at the data, you see that that GDP is going down, but employment is going up. Doesn't make any sense, right? Just casual read of the data. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's totally. I feel so. Then for those who feel that, like, those who are coming back to BRICS, for those who feel there's always an underlying fight between the major powers of the world. But the question is that, like, we must always, at every particular point in time, ask ourselves what is in it for our own best interest. I tell anybody that cares to listen to me, that, like, when you look at FDI of China into Europe and North America, it dwarfs what they do in Africa. So when Europe can accept Chinese money, but they don't want us to accept Chinese money, I don't understand the logic behind that. And if India is our biggest importer of crude oil, and China is our biggest taker of, we buy, most of our supplies come from China, must we trade in a separate currency? If anything that will make us facilitate that trade, after all, we did yuan swaps. So those idea of this is against this is against that, I think it's just the television narrative to distract us from the main position. Somebody dropped the ball. We made a nominal application which did not follow through, like a lot of things people in government do. Somebody just forgot to follow through and is trying to make it look like as if, after all, we do not need them. As you rightly mentioned, the same thing we said about JP Morgan. We don't need JP Morgan listing. But we can see the impact on all of us traveling abroad and trying to use our ATM cards in the foreign ATM machines. It's not helping us any down the line. But somebody years back was trying to say, we do not need them. We do not need to be listed. We are too big. Who is JP Morgan? Yeah. Nigeria is an independent state. We are this, we are that. Just to brag. Whereas we know where we are.
Yeah. I mean,
thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. I mean, if we are doing a swap, if you already put your foot in the swimming pool, jump in, go the whole hog and get the full benefits. All right, guys, we're going to end top of the hour. We've got about 5 minutes or so. So let me just get LVHDL.
Thank you so
Try to read those alphabets, man. I can't. What's up, man? Where are you calling from?
I'm doing well. Were you about to ask me a question?
Yeah, that's where you're calling from. Where are you calling from?
Oh yeah, I'm specifically from the U.S.
Gotcha. Go for it, sir.
Yeah. So I saw the unemployment, the most recent statistics of the unemployment report issued by the NBS, and I feel that it leaves out some very vital information, right? Or should I say population sample. So for the first, if you are working over an hour, a minimum of an hour every week, I'm making above 500, right? For an hour of work every week, you are considered to be employed. So if you work 4 hours a month and you made 2,000 naira under this new statistics, under this new model, you are considered to be employed. Secondly, if you have not worked in the past 7 days and have been looking for work for minimum of 4 weeks, right? So under this new model, you have to be looking for work for minimum of 4 weeks before you are considered to be unemployed. And, I'm surprised the report did not come out to 0%, honestly. My only shock is that this new methodology did not say unemployment rate is 0%. And this is where it now gets me to the next question, that if the NBS, if I had the opportunity to talk to them, I would have asked, where are the monthly job reports? I mean, in most countries that I've been to, they issue monthly or quarterly job reports. And job reports means like how many jobs are available in this country at this point in time. I would very much love to see it, because in places like US, people start business because they want to. It's not because they can't get a job. But in places like, our beloved country, Nigeria, people start business because they don't have a choice. It's a big difference. And most businesses in Nigeria have failed. Majority, if we're being honest. Majority it's dependent on, it's either they're unemployed or they are doing an hour of work or something similar every week and not making enough to survive the economy or the country. I'm going to leave it there because I know you say you have 5 minutes, and I would like whoever the next person to talk. So thank you so much.
I think you're going to be the last person because we don't have enough time to have one person talk and then close down.
Okay, please, I just want to ask the question.
I asked you, you said, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is that the methodology used by NBS, has it been used in another country?
Yeah, many countries. Nothing wrong with methodology. The methodology is sound.
Secondly, is ILO and World Bank in Nigeria, are they part of this report?
Yeah, they are.
If the answer is yes, so then are you saying that these two organizations will also back Nigerian government to give fake data? That's just what I want to know.
The data is not fake. So understand what they did. They changed the methodology. They simply says if you work for X amount of time, you are employed. That's all they did. And many countries use it. That's their excuse. They are hiding behind the methodology because that's what they are saying. So I can also say I want to measure inflation. And I say I'm only going to put in my inflation basket pure water, yam in my basket, because I know pure water's price does not move as high as other goods. And I'll have a lower inflation. And I'll be correct. I can say I want to measure maternal mortality by only measuring Lagos State, because Lagos State has a very, very high or very, very low maternal mortality, and I'll be correct. But when you are a policy maker and you look at that number, you're a Nigerian. Forget, you are not even an economist. You're a Nigerian, and someone tells you that 4 out of that only 4 that just are unemployed. You know it's wrong. So you say, what did we do wrong? Oh, the methodology was wrong. Okay, let's go back and fix it. That's what they should have done. There's nothing. I'm not saying that they are faking the figures. No, I think there was a well done report, but their methodology is wrong. There is no way you can tell any Nigerian economist or non-economist that only 4 Nigerians out of 100 are unemployed. Doesn't make any sense. So what you do, you go back and you change methodology, or you leave this report, then you do 2 new reports that will say, okay, we're going to use this baseline and that baseline. Hence, you have 3 reports. Use whatever you want to use. End of story. That's how it's done everywhere. America has household survey. They have whatever the other one called survey, and you pick
the other question, Kate, it means that even the artisan, even the people that are doing bricklayer work have been added to this report.
They've always been added. They've always been there. Informal sector has always been there.
So if those people are added, what we can say is that yes, they are working, but they are living. The money that they are getting cannot be considered to be a living wage.
No, wage. It doesn't take wage into cognizance. It just says, "Are you working?" Wage is a different thing entirely. It simply says, "Are they employed?" So it defines employment as how many hours are they employed. So in this case, 1 hour out of a week. That's what he's trying to do. So the vulcanizer, if you add you come to fix your car 5 minutes, second car 10 minutes. If you combine his hours, it's more than a certain hour. He's employed if he is looking for work and part of the labor force. That's what they've done. So there's nothing wrong.
Is that thing that they said about the arts, about the
we're gonna round up, bro.
The vulcanizer, is it true or false?
The vulcanizer. Last question. The vulcanizers are part of the employment report. They've always been there. Informal sector is part of your workforce. They've always been there. There is no change. What is to be done is to have a very, very low bar to be considered employed, which now means many people are employed. If you're selling pure water for 1 hour in a week, you are employed, which doesn't make any sense. All right, folks, thanks again for hanging out with us for about close to 3 hours talking about the economy, personal finance, and of course, money. This time we've talked about the BRICS, we've talked about the report from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, also talked about the JP Morgan report. All it points to is that we don't like some, we want some to be tweaked, and we think it should be done better. Thanks for joining in. Guys, let me close by doing a shout out to myself. Do try to get my book, Let's Talk About Money. It's on Amazon. Do grab it. It talks about how you can invest, how you can budget. Simple, easy language. And I promise you guys, it will help you out. Get as a gift. Give to your friends. Give to those that you love and those that you don't like as well. See you guys here next week, Sunday. We might have some guys coming in here to talk about a note for investment. So I'll see you guys then. On that note, guys, thanks so much and bye.